Chapter 751. It's you. You're the one who cheated. The enforcer's forehead was filled with cold sweat as his facial features contorted in pain. Although he was the market's enforcer, but in terms of status, he naturally couldn't be compared to the four great aristocratic families. How could he afford to offend the Shangwan family? Xiongda's group of people were precisely the followers that Shangwan Fangyi and Shangwan Liuli had raised. He wanted to please the Shangwan clan, and because of this, whenever Big Brother Xiong and his men committed any crimes in the marketplace, he would take the blame for them. Now that he heard Yi Qing Luo was going to tell the Shangwan family about him kicking Shangwan Liuli, his position as the enforcer was probably going to be taken away. Yi Qing Luo spread out her hands. Which eye of yours saw me cheating? Did I use your leg to kick Shangwan Liuli, or did I control your soul to force you to kick Shangwan Liuli? The crowd couldn't help but burst out laughing. Telling lies with a straight face, they only admired Yi Qing Luo. Ginger is indeed spicier with age. Your ability to distort black and white is so powerful. Puffed. At this moment, the enforcer couldn't hold it in as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Age was not only a woman's secret, it was also a man's reverse scale. Especially those who were in high positions. They were used to enjoying the high and mighty days. Every time he thought of his age, he might have to give up his position tomorrow, and so on. He would feel an inexplicable sense of panic. The enforcer was already over 50 years old and thought that he was old but strong and could still stay in this position for another 10 years. But unfortunately, Yi Qing Luo had repeatedly used his age to talk about this. Who could tolerate this? After settling these two people who were blocking the way, Yi Qing Luo didn't want to waste any more of her brother's time as she called out for everyone to set off. Whoever dares to let them leave the market, this enforcer will seal the entire market and none of you will be able to leave. The enforcer was filled with anger. How could he let Yi Qing Luo and the rest leave? Otherwise, he would really not be able to explain himself after he kicked Shangwan Liuli. No matter what, he could not let Yi Qing Luo and the rest leave. The other spectators were simply standing around watching. How could they get shot? Looking at the enforcer's uncontrollable anger and resentful look, they knew that the enforcer was really angry. If Yi Qing Luo and the others were to leave, they would be trapped in the marketplace by the law enforcers. The onlookers were furious at the law enforcer's request, but he was still forced by reality. So no matter what, he couldn't let Yi Qing Luo and the others leave. There was strength in numbers. This sentence was indeed a truth. Thousands of merchants, adventurers, and whatnot surrounded them tightly. The World Group's mercenaries' faces turned extremely ugly. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen someone so shameless. What kind of law enforcer was this? His face was so big that he had nowhere to put it. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she narrowed her eyes and swept a glance at the surrounding people. Teaching Big Bear and the enforcers a lesson was what they deserved. But these merchants and adventurers were innocent. All they did was watch from the sidelines and say a few words. If they really led a group of brothers to fight with these merchants and adventurers, they would still be the ones in the wrong in the end. Moreover, he had exhausted all his strength early in the morning. The effect of the following training would be greatly reduced. Their holiday was only 3 days. It definitely couldn't be wasted in the hands of such a senseless person. Want to make peace with the enforcers? Forget it. It was too disgusting. So he couldn't do it even if he ignored his conscience. It's only been a month, and the enforcer's arrogance has become even more arrogant. Since when did the marketplace become the enforcer's territory? Suddenly, a young man's clear voice was heard from outside the crowd. Chapter 752. I'm very curious. Who gave you the guts to bully the mercenary groups passing through the marketplace and order the customers and merchants in the marketplace? That person scoffed lightly, his tone filled with disdain and ridicule. A youth dressed in a blue robe walked over with steady steps. That delicate and immature face was filled with solemnity. Young master. The law enforcer, who had a sinister expression on his face, turned pale when he saw who it was. He anxiously wanted to turn his head and face the person who had just arrived so that he could explain the reason to him. However, the moment he moved his head, he felt a heart-wrenching pain in his neck. That man totally didn't bother about the law enforcer who was howling in pain as he took quick steps towards Yiqing Luo. Finally, he stood in front of Yiqing Luo and revealed a smile. Vice Group Leader, Imo Hanshang has returned to the team. This person was none other than the Mercenary Association's young master, Imo Hanshang. Welcome back. Yiqing Luo gazed at the young man's delicate and exquisite face as her lips curled into a smile. Seeing Imo Hanshang appear, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. If possible, she didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Yiqing Luo had always believed that it was better to make a friend or ally than to become an enemy. As the saying goes, righteousness is the most important thing in Jianghu. Right now, the World Mercenary Group's reputation was already resounding enough. Yiqing Luo wouldn't let the World Group really become the target of public criticism. If Imo Hanshang was able to resolve this matter peacefully, then everything would be fine. The enforcer's face was ashen as he looked at Imo Hanshang and Yiqing Luo as his ears kept ringing. Did he hear wrongly? That was an illusion, right? What did the young master of the Mercenary Guild just call that lowly girl? Vice Commander? Return to the team? What does that mean? The guard supporting him said in a hoarse voice. Lord Enforcer, young Master Imo, he seems to have joined a newly established mercenary group last month. That mercenary group is the mercenary group that everyone has been talking about recently. In other words, these young boys and girls, the influential figure that swept the entire mercenary world a month ago, the World Mercenary Group, there were handsome men and beautiful women, and the members were all teenagers. Right? It was none other than these people in front of him. He didn't expect that. He didn't realize this. The law enforcement officer wanted to die. How could he be so blind to offend young Master Imo just to please Shangwan Liuli? As a result, the law enforcement officers started to hate Shangwan Liuli. Young Master Imo, today's matter isn't my fault. It's fifth Miss Shangwan. She intentionally instructed. The enforcer knelt down in front of Imo Hanshang with a plop, not caring about his dislocated cervical vertebra, as he spilled out Shangwan Liuli's matters. Fifth Miss Shangwan felt that Vice Group Leader Yi had a heaven-defying magical artifact on him, so she intentionally arranged for Big Xiong's mercenaries to take action on the World Group. This subordinate was also forced. I plead for young Master Imo to show mercy. What nonsense are you spouting? Shangwan Liuli clutched her chest and pointed at the law enforcement officer with resentment in her eyes as she scolded. It's obvious that you were greedy and wanted me to cooperate with you. The enforcer kowtowed desperately, denying Shangwan Liuli's words. Yiqing Luo and the others really didn't have the mood to watch a dog-biting dog show. Moreover, their bite was simply too painful to the eyes. Law enforcement officer, the Mercenary Association specially set up the enforcers and guards in the marketplace so that you can maintain the peace in the marketplace and not to give you the capital to put on airs. Chapter 753. Last month, when the marketplace was massacred, when there was a bloodbath, where were you? Imo Hanshang saw the enforcer kowtowing, complaining that he knew he was in the wrong as his brows creased even tighter with a look of annoyance. His height was around the same height as Yiqing Luo, with a delicate face giving off an indistinguishable feeling. But now that he was standing in front of the enforcer, that overbearing, imposing manner made the enforcer not dare to lift his head. The enforcer didn't dare to respond. Imo Hanshang continued. You said you led 130 law enforcers to count the number of people in your secret passageway. On that day of the bloodbath, there wasn't a single law enforcer in the marketplace, not a single one. The enforcer shivered in fear. Last month, after the marketplace was massacred, the Mercenary Association's president wanted to replace the enforcer. But the other elders joined hands to make the enforcer stay. They wanted to give him another chance. But seeing this scene, if Imo Hanshang still believed this so-called enforcer, he would be an idiot. 130 law enforcers. So coincidentally, they went to count the number of people. Even if they really counted the number of people they needed to count, the entire marketplace Thousands of people had been massacred cleanly before they finished counting. They were obviously greedy for life and afraid of death. This young patriarch will hand this matter over to Father to handle. Enforcer, you'd better behave yourself. The enforcer's pupils dilated. Shangguan Lu Li, who was by the side, had just heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Emo Han Shang's cold voice. As for fifth Miss Shangguan, at such a young age, she already knew how to instigate her own people to lay hands on her own classmate in the marketplace, all because of a so-called magic weapon. He sneered as his eyes were filled with disdain, not to mention that vice group leader doesn't have the so-called magic weapon. Even if she did, that has nothing to do with you. To have such vicious thoughts, fifth Miss Shangguan's upbringing is really beautiful. Tomorrow, this young patriarch will personally head over to the Shangguan clan to have a good discussion with Patriarch Shangguan on how to educate his children. Saying that, Emo Han Shang turned his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo, vice group leader. Let's go. Young patriarch, Emo, please spare my life. Young patriarch, Emo, please spare my life. Young patriarch Emo, this matter is Lu Li's fault. Lu Li will apologize to you. My father's side, we won't disturb young patriarch Emo any longer. The expressions of the enforcers and Shangguan Liu Li changed drastically, and they immediately pleaded for leniency. However, Emo Han Shang totally didn't bother about them. Directly together with Yi Qing Luo and the others, they flocked out of the marketplace. The entire marketplace was filled with sighs. Looking at the law enforcement officers and Shangguan Liuli who were kneeling on the ground, they shook their heads and sighed. Who would have thought that today's show would have so many twists and turns? He didn't expect that even the young master of the mercenary guild would appear. TSK. So it turns out that the mercenary group of those young boys and girls was the World Mercenary Group that was rumored to have been promoted to the bronze rank in one day. It truly lived up to its reputation. No wonder he was so awesome and wasn't afraid of the law enforcers. More than 90 people walked out of the market in a mighty manner. There were actually 2 or 3 mercenary groups following behind him. There were at least 200 to 300 people in each mercenary group. Together, there were more than 1,000 people. This was the only road leading to the mercenary union. It was originally very spacious and could accommodate at least 100 people. At this moment, it was extremely crowded. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she glanced sideways at Emo Han Shang. Han Shang, why are there so many mercenary groups heading towards the mercenary union today? Could it be that there's a new mission? In the marketplace, she saw at least 10 over mercenary groups dressed in different attire. Chapter 754. You don't know? This was not Emo Han Shang's reply, but Xiao Jin. He looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. Today is the Mercenary Association's big day. You actually don't know? Big day. Yi Qing Luo was at a loss. Every third holiday in the Mercenary Association, they will hold a day of random mission distribution event. Emo Han Shang continued and explained seriously. This event is to promote the mercenary group's unity, enthusiasm, adventurous nature, etc. Random mission distribution event? The Mercenary Association, which looked so strict, would also hold such a joyous event? What a sudden change in style. Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something. This event was suggested by you? Emo Han Shang bashfully scratched the back of his head. I'm aiming at the mercenary group's common problem and came up with this event. Not only can it help the Mercenary Association build momentum, it indeed can let the various mercenary groups have a sense of competition. The mercenary groups have been established for a long time. It could easily turn into a kind of work mode, just like those old members of the Blue Dragon mercenary group. The past heroic dreams had all been erased by various missions, that kind of passion. And at this moment, a random mission activity appeared. It easily ignited their curiosity. Because of the unknown, so they would be intensely interested. At the same time of interest, the Mercenary Association would also give out double the reward to show encouragement. Not to mention the interest towards the unknown, just this double reward would attract many mercenary groups to participate. Because the rewards from the Mercenary Association, especially the honor points, were simply too hard to obtain. These mercenary groups all want to participate in the random mission distribution event. Yiqing Luo turned her head to look at the three groups behind her, and not too far ahead, there were quite a number of mercenary groups. These missions, roughly what kind of missions are there? According to the mercenary group's grade, it will be randomly selected. Mo Hanshang mentioned the event which he had painstakingly designed, as his eyes were filled with smiles. For example, ordinary mercenary group. The random mission scope is roughly low-grade experience points and rare missions, as well as intermediate-grade experience points. Bronze Plate Mercenary Group, the random mission scope, is roughly low to medium-grade experience points and rare missions. There are also a small number of mercenary groups who may draw high-grade experience points. Silver Plate Mercenary Group. The random mission scope is the same as others, and there is a probability of drawing complex grade experience points and rare complex grade mission. Complex grade? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows in puzzlement. Then what happens if the mission that you've drawn cannot be completed? Although they were randomly selected based on their level. However, if you were to win the lottery and draw a rare mission of the highest level, he would not be able to complete it. He could not just bite the bullet and go to his death. Leader can choose to accept or reject, but if you give up, 100 honor points will be deducted from the mercenary group. Mo Hanshang said seriously and solemnly. Moreover, a mercenary group only has 2 rounds of random qualifications. If they were to give up on both rounds, then this round of random event, they would lose their permanent qualification. That was a good rule. Yiqing Luo turned her head towards Long Yunzhan. Do you think we should get a try? Long Yunzhan touched the guild leader's medal and glanced at it. At present, we have a total of 191 honor points. It is only enough for us to give up on one mission. Shouldn't have drawn out any weird missions. Yiqing Luo's last word was specially dragged out, as her vision looked towards Mo Hanshang, blinking her eyes, right? Chapter 755. Just as she was saying that, a gentleman's voice was heard from behind. The World Mercenary Group. You don't mind joining us, right? Not waiting for Yiqing Luo and the others to respond, another glib voice was heard. Me too, me too. It's on the way. Following that, there was a lady's sweet voice. Since the few group leaders are going together, you don't mind if I'm alone, right? Yiqing Luo and the rest were at the back of the group, and when they stopped and turned their heads, they saw 2 men and a lady walking towards them in quick steps. One of the men was dressed in a dark green long robe and looked to be around 25 to 26 years old. He looked like a well-behaved and fair young master. Yiqing Luo had never liked this type of man. An overly refined and well-behaved man would instead look pretentious. Like Si Yinmu, like Lung Fengying. These people were people who could stab a knife into your heart with a gentle smile. Looking at the man's side, it was a tall and burly man in a black magua. He had a full beard, and she couldn't tell his age. Beside the 2 men was a young lady dressed in a peach-colored short skirt. She was about 15 to 16 years old, and that peach-colored short skirt made the young lady look like a peach blossom. The young lady's dressing was extremely simple. Her peach-colored short skirt was clean and nimble, which was convenient for movement. Her hip-length long hair was tied up by a peach-colored hairband. It was slightly messy, but it showed off the young lady's youthful vivacity. The only ornament on her was the peach-colored gauze band on her wrist. These 3 people, weren't they the group leaders of those 3 mercenary groups? These 3 people, what were they trying to do? Yiqing Luo and the rest stopped in their tracks as they waited for the 3 of them to walk over. I'm Yinzhan, the group leader of Invincible Mercenary Group, Bronze Plate Mercenary Group. The man in the dark green long robe introduced himself first. That tall and burly man touched his full beard as he laughed loudly. Me. I'm called Shinshan. This name is too artistic and doesn't suit my image. Everyone calls me Big Beard. Just call me that. I'm not some group leader, just the executive group leader of the Blood Demon Mercenary Group. And a Silver Plate Mercenary Group. The woman's lively eyes looked at Yiqing Luo for some time and gave an adorable smile. Student Yi, my name is Tao Tao. You can call me Tao Z. I'm the group leader of Peach Blossom 3000 Mercenary Group. Our are all women. Classmate? Yi-Ching Luo narrowed her eyes in astonishment. Peach grabbed the corner of her clothes. Her curved eyebrows looked very cute. Student, you may not know me. I'm also a student of the Heavenly Academy, in the same class as student Yifeng Yu. I often hear student Yifeng Yu mention you. Low profound class 2 students? Yi-Ching Luo's peripheral vision glanced at the group of mercenaries in front as her brows creased slightly. Should she consider giving these young servants some ways to disguise themselves? The world was such a small place, one could always run into one after another. If they recognized that they were students from the devil class, it would be troublesome. Classmate Yi, I admire you very much. My wish is to be like you, to become a strong person, to not be afraid of anything, and to always be full of hope. After saying that, Peach shyly curled up her fingers. Yi-Ching Luo could tell that this lady's every word came from the bottom of her heart. A person's eyes cannot deceive a person's heart. Peach's eyes were limpid and clean. Her eyes were filled with adoration and love for Qingmu. Yi-Ching Luo laughed softly. So it's Little Yu's classmate. Little Yu is not very sensible. If he commits any mistakes in the class, you can tell me any time. Peach nodded her head vigorously, her brows raised in joy. Yes, my goddess. Wait, goddess. Chapter 756. Student Yifeng Yu likes you as his sister very much. Every time he mentioned you, his brows would dance, and he would be in high spirits. Even his eyes would light up. As though they had found a common topic, Peach's mouth couldn't stop as she squeezed the two people behind her. Yin Zhan and Bearded Man totally had no chance to step forward. They specially came over, especially to build a relationship with Yi-Ching Luo. After all, this the World Mercenary Group, although they looked like a bunch of young men and young ladies, but their ability was there, and they even had the young patriarch of the Mercenary Association. Who could deny their influence in the mercenary world? But this 3,000 Peach Blossom Mercenary Group leader had been forcefully holding onto Yi-Ching Luo's arm, so they didn't even have a chance to interrupt. Yin Zhan's gentle brows revealed some impatience. Bearded Man wasn't a patient person. They had already walked for 100 miles, and Peach Blossom Group leader was still holding onto Yi-Ching Luo, chatting about everything under the heavens. He and Yin Zhan were following behind, feeling extremely awkward. How could Bearded Man endure it? He directly walked up and grabbed Peach's arm, casually pushing her back. We're all here to befriend the World Group. Can't you give me a chance to speak? Bearded Man was a typical muscular man. His figure was tall and sturdy. This push of his was very little to him. But if it was placed on a delicate young lady, how could Peach maintain her balance? Her feet were unsteady as she fell downwards. Be careful! An anxious voice was heard, and immediately, Peach's petite body was caught in a wide embrace. Peach was slightly stunned as she was enclosed in that warm embrace, which was extremely hard. His body didn't have the usual sweaty stench of an ordinary man, but it was fresh and clean, an extremely soothing smell. Peach raised her head as her long and thick lashes fluttered, meeting with a pair of resplendent starry eyes, so dazzling that she felt a little dizzy. From this angle, against the light, the man who was hugging her had a layer of hazy radiance on his features. This face, although it wasn't outstanding and wasn't considered handsome or good-looking, but it had a unique charm, especially that pair of eyes, which could tug at one's heartstrings. Miss Tao, what's the matter with you? Are you all right? Xiao Jin saw that she didn't say a word and assumed that she was frightened by Bearded Man's rough actions as he released her hand. Following that, he walked in front of Bearded Man and tugged his collar. How can you lay your hands on such a delicate beauty? Are you still a man? Bearded Man's face instantly turned red. I just gave her a light push. Who asked that last to monopolize your group leader? We're here to make friends, not to be followers. No, it's fine. Peach blushed and moved away from Xiao Jin's side. Such an ordinary-looking man. Moreover, he was such an ordinary-looking man. Seeing him reprimand the Bearded Man for her sake, Taozi blushed even more. She pursed her lips shyly and said, I'm fine. Thank you for saving me. Xiao Jin let go of Big Beard and clapped his hands. When he turned to look at Peach, he revealed a gentle smile. No, Miss Tao, you don't have to thank him. That bastard Jin's wish is to be a hero and save the beauty. You fulfilled his wish, so he should thank you. A clear voice directly interrupted Xiao Jin's words. Yin Xiao stepped forward with a cold smile on her face. She reached out and grabbed Xiao Jin's arm. Chapter 757. Slut Jin get lost. Yin Xiao Yi's expression changed immediately. She lifted her leg and kicked him away, rushing towards the brothers in front. No matter how Xiao Jin shouted, Yin Xiao Yi did not turn back. He only stopped when he reached Zhao Bo's side. Seeing Yin Xiao Yi ignoring him and talking to Zhao Bo about something, Xiao Jin scratched his head. How strange. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a helpless smile as she shook her head. Jin Zi, let me give you 2 words. What? You deserve it. Why do I deserve it? Xiao Jin's eyes widened as he grumbled indignantly. I didn't do anything to her. I didn't provoke her. How did I? Before she could finish her words, Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered with the teasing Xiao Jin as she shifted her vision towards Yin Zhan and Bearded Man. You want to befriend group leader? That's right, we want to make friends with you. The bearded man nodded profusely, but as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. Yin Zhan frowned. Aren't you the leader of the World Mercenary Group? I'm not. Yi Qing Luo pointed at Long Yunzhan. Group leader is over there. Long Yunzhan raised his expressionless face and looked over coldly. Yunzhan and the bearded man shivered and laughed dryly. Oh my God, little kids nowadays have such a strong aura. With one look, one could tell that he wasn't someone who was easy to get along with. Ever since the World Mercenary Group stepped into the marketplace, they had never seen the World Group leader speak a single word. Those mercenary youngsters also listened to Yi Qing Luo's commands. It was no wonder that they mistook their leader for someone else. Our Blood Fiend mercenary group wishes to befriend the World Group. It doesn't matter who the leader is. What's important is that we, the Blood Fiends, admire your team. Big Beard shouted loudly. That's right. Yin Zhan smiled warmly. You're all so young, yet you're able to establish your own team and develop it so rapidly. You're indeed young heroes. There's no need to be so courteous. Time is of the essence, so let's hurry over to the Mercenary Association first. If we're late, we won't be able to take part in the activity. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she changed the topic. It was good to have another friend. However, they were also clear about what kind of friends they should make and what kind of friends they shouldn't. For example, Yin Zhan. He looked cultured and refined, and his speech was also very refined. But from his gaze and the occasional expressions of emotions, Yi Qing Luo was able to determine that this person called Yin Zhan was arrogant, conceited, and extremely ambitious. Rather than saying that he wanted to make friends with the World Group, it would be better to say that he wanted to use the World Group to complete a certain objective of his. To be friends with this kind of person, you must always be able to protect his interests. Otherwise, once they lost their value, Yin Zhan might very well sell them out in exchange for greater benefits. As for the other bearded man, he was a straightforward person and didn't have a big heart. However, he was too inflexible, and he had an extraordinary dedication and passion for his mercenary team. Of course, this was not to say that this was bad. Yi Qing Luo was the same. She had the same persistence and passion toward her own team. They all had the attitude of no matter what's right or wrong, my brother is right. If this sort of shielding really hurt the other party's team, a second ago, they were still calling each other brothers, but in the next second, a knife could be placed on the other party's neck. Because of this, Yi Qing Luo didn't intend to have too deep of a relationship with these two people. After all, the youths in her team had never stepped foot in the outside world and were too naive. Chapter 758. Miss Yi, are you going to take part in the random mission activities? Why don't we form a team? Yin Zhan sent out an invitation. Bearded man stroked his beard as he laughed loudly. Right. Let's form a team. Let's 4 teams do it together, and after we take on the mission, we'll work together. We have sufficient manpower and our ability is right there. So, there's no need to worry about drawing a mission that we can't complete. That's a good idea. Perhaps we could spare some time to take on the second random mission. Yin Zhan nodded his head in agreement. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as her peripheral vision swept past the both of them. Then which team should we start with? Yin Zhan and Bearded Man replied in unison, "Of course we'll start with me." Before they could finish their words, the both of them seemed to have realized something as they exchanged glances and lowered their eyelids awkwardly. After some time, Yin Zhan found the right words. "What I mean is, let's start with the most complicated mission. Anyway, we have a lot of people, so no matter how complicated the mission is, we'll be able to complete it in the shortest time." Bearded Man nodded his head repeatedly. But when the both of them raised their eyes and met Yiqing Luo's face, they instantly felt a chill down their spines. This peerlessly beautiful, dainty, and adorable young lady had a faint smile hanging on her lips as her eyes were curved, narrow, and enchanting. She looked so innocent and harmless. But inexplicably, it made the both of them feel a sense of trepidation. If I didn't remember wrongly, earlier young Master Shin mentioned that your Blood Demon Mercenaries group is a Silver Plate mercenary group. That means that your random mission is very likely to draw a complicated great experience mission or some other complicated rare mission. Yiqing Luo's tone were gentle and slow, not at all rude. Bearded Man's expression stiffened slightly. Of course, the probability of a complicated grade mission is very low. But even if you draw a high-grade experience mission, it's very likely that with our 3 teams, we can only accompany you to fight for this mission. Standing on a bystander's point of view and lending a helping hand, it's not impossible. But I also have my team and my brothers. I can't possibly drag my own brothers to accompany you to do something impossible. Yin Zhan coughed a few times and hid the hostility in his eyes. He smiled gently and said, "Miss Yi is thoughtful." Peach snorted coldly and stepped forward, hooking Yiqing Luo's arm. Her pretty face was full of sarcasm. "Stop it. All of you have been in the mercenary world for several years. Why are you pretending to be a newbie?" "What do you mean?" Xiao Jin could tell that there was a hidden meaning in her words. He moved forward and asked in confusion. When Peach's gaze met Xiao Jin's, she shifted her gaze away in a somewhat flustered manner. Her cheeks were slightly red as she lowered her eyelashes and said, "The two of them want to join forces and trick you into doing random missions for their mercenary group." Looking at the Peach in this state, Yiqing Luo's heart thumped hard. Her attention was completely not on the matter of Yin Zhan and the Bearded Man's deception. His thoughts drifted to the other side. Cough, cough. Could it be Peach really fell in love with Xiao Jin at first sight? In this other world, strength was the most important factor, and appearance was the second factor. Would a woman fall in love with Xiao Jin at first sight? The world was too fantastical. One must know that Xiao Jin's looks were absolutely not good-looking, especially in the world mercenary group, which was filled with handsome men and beautiful women. That face of his seemed even more ordinary. Looking at Peach, her appearance was delicate and lovely, captivating even the birds and beasts, overshadowing the moon and flowers, and her character was quick-witted and adorable. Looking at Peach's dressing again, as well as the 200 over female mercenary group which she had established, her family background was absolutely not bad. Whatever type of man she wanted, it was just a matter of curling her fingers. Chapter 759. Qing Luo. The voice beside her ears made Yiqing Luo abruptly regain her senses. Her long lashes fluttered as her eyes regained their luster. "Earlier, what did you guys say? Did she miss something strange?" "Why?" Peach, Xiao Jin, and Long Yin Zhan were staring at her without blinking. And Yin Zhan and Bearded Man's expressions were so ugly. Qing Luo, at such a serious moment, how could you get lovesick and think of Tian? Xiao Jin hooked Yiqing Luo's shoulder as he teased her with an arc. "Think of what Xian." She was obviously thinking of him. Xiao Jin's luck with women, since he dared to tease her. Regarding the possibility of Peach falling in love with him at first sight, she wouldn't tell him. Let's see how this fellow with no EQ would deal with the conflict between him and Yin Xiao Yi. Student Yiqing Luo, I'm analyzing that the both of them want to make use of the World Mercenary Group's evidence. Peach stuck out her tongue at Yin Zhan and Bearded Man. Let me explain to you the rules of random missions. The time limit for random missions is 3 days, and the time limit for drawing the mission will end at midnight today. Saying that, Peach specially made a 3-day hand gesture. And the range of the random mission could possibly be in some corner of the West Continent or some dangerous place. Just the journey back and forth would take at least half a day or at least a day. We might not even be able to complete the first random mission on time. So don't even mention about how we still have time and can take on the second mission, etc. Such a ridiculous topic. Saying that, Peach gave a cold harumph as she looked at Yin Zhan in disdain. If I didn't guess wrongly, Group Leader Yin used the same method to coax Bearded Man, and on seeing that our student Yiqing Luo is a newly established mercenary group and doesn't know the rules of random missions, he tried to coax her to help your mercenary group to complete the mission. Yin Zhan's refined face flushed red instantly. Bearded Man's eyes widened. He was indeed attracted by Yin Zhan's words and was prepared to work together with Yin Zhan's invincible mercenary group. Following that, the both of them saw the World Mercenary Group's magnificent feat in the marketplace. He thought that this group of young people who didn't know the rules would easily take the bait. He immediately followed them. He had not expected. Not only did Yin Zhan want to deceive the World Mercenary Group, he even wanted to deceive him. The Bearded Man's chest was filled with rage. The flames in his eyes danced as he glared fiercely at Yin Zhan. In the end, Yin Zhan was only the leader of a bronze plate mercenary group. Although the mercenary group had been around for almost 3 years, the reason why the mercenary group was able to develop to where it was now was entirely because of his brain, his cleverness, and his gentle and refined appearance. He was able to gain the trust of many people, and from there, they could make some small moves. But to this day, it was only a bronze plate mercenary group. Big Beardy was the executive leader of Silver Mercenary Group. He could not afford to offend them. In his panic, Yin Zhan pointed the spearhead at Peach. You are talking nonsense. If it's really as you said, then wouldn't you be following us to get close to Miss Yi and even trying to establish a relationship with Miss Yi? Wouldn't you be trying to make use of the World Mercenary Group? Peach rolled her eyes, and her pretty face was full of pride. My Peach Blossom 3000 Mercenary Group doesn't do any fighting or killing. We are mainly responsible for gathering information. In other words, she had more or less figured out Yin Zhan's reputation and the hookups he had done in the past. Yin Zhan staggered a few steps back. He opened his mouth and wanted to refute something. Chapter 760. It's because I know what kind of person you are that I specially followed you over. I cannot let you deceive my goddess. Peach raised her head complacently as a smile flashed past her eyes. But I have to thank you. It's you who gave me the courage to speak to my goddess. Yiqing Luo. Wait a minute, this goddess, what the hell was that? And this voice, this tone, this expression, what was going on? Yiqing Luo wailed in her heart. Her sexual orientation was out. Right? Positive. Constant. No. Do. 100. Together. Amen. Let Peach fall in love with Xiao Jin at first sight, to see through his inner handsomeness. Peach's words made Yin Zhan's face turned ashen. His body tensed up as he stared fiercely at Peach, wishing that he could tear that mouth into several pieces. However, Peach remained unmoved. She was still smiling like a flower as she whispered something to Yiqing Luo. Yin Zhan's eyes were overflowing with viciousness as he clenched his fists tightly. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, the bearded man, standing beside him, suddenly punched his face. A bam was heard, and Yin Zhan was unable to react in time as he fell onto the ground. Bearded man's physique was huge and definitely not just for show. When this punch landed, Yin Zhan's delicate little body was totally unable to withstand his devastation. Damn it, Yin Zhan, you even dared to lie to me. If I don't destroy your mercenary group today, I'm not called Bearded Man. Bearded Man was filled with rage as he pressed Yin Zhan onto the ground as he raised his fist and punched him again. Yiqing Luo and the others naturally weren't interested in these two men's fight. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's attention was attracted by Peach's find-out news. To have one's own network of informants and to know all the news in the continent was an extremely important step to establish one's own force. For those large-scale mercenary groups, they would split out a portion of their forces to form a network of informants, especially to find out all sorts of news for the mercenary group. Yiqing Luo had naturally thought of establishing such an organization. She intended to wait for the world group to mature a little before discussing this matter. Today, after Peach mentioned it, she had an idea. Group leader. Executive group leader. The Invincible Guild and Blood Demon Guild were still waiting for their guild leader's response when they suddenly saw the two guild leaders fighting each other. He immediately rushed forward and pulled the leaders of both sides apart. Weren't they discussing the cooperation between the two mercenary groups not long ago? Why was it that after roping in the world group, the members of the world group left with that female group, and these two group leaders started fighting instead? Raid the Invincible Guild. You even dare to deceive me. The bearded man was aggressive. Idiot! Don't fall for that woman's provocation. Yin Zhan's facial muscles were bruised, and blood was still seeping from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't hide the sarcasm on his face. Those two women are in cahoots with each other. They deliberately teamed up to make us lose the chance to participate in the random mission. You really fell for it and even hit me. Are you stupid? Being reprimanded, the bearded man was a little stunned. Blood Demon Guild's leader behind him creased his brows. What do you mean by this? If you really annihilate my invincible mercenary group today, the two women's plot will succeed. Yin Zhan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the two muscular and fierce-looking managers had fallen for his trap. However, the expression on his face and the angry tone of his voice remained unchanged. Chapter 761. The Mercenary Association has a rule that those mercenary groups who participate in the random assignment of missions are not allowed to have any conflicts with other mercenary groups or do anything that harms other mercenary groups. Otherwise, their participation rights will be revoked. Yin Zhan rubbed his chest, which was in pain from the beating, as he steadied himself with the help of his members. He pointed at the bearded man and scolded furiously. If you really destroy Invincible, not only will my Invincible be destroyed, even the Blood Demon group, which you have painstakingly built up till now, will also be destroyed. Senior's words are indeed the truth. A woman's heart is the most vicious. Yin Zhan clenched his teeth tightly as the veins on his forehead popped out. The World Mercenary Group. Peach Blossom 3000 Mercenary Group. I, Yin Zhan, will be irreconcilable with them. Blood Demon Group's leader didn't understand what had happened earlier. Seeing the bearded man in a daze, he walked over to Yin Zhan guiltily and kept on apologizing. Brother, it's my fault I don't have any brains. Those two ladies' words made me believe them. Brother, why don't you beat me up, beat me back? Forget it, you've been cheated by them. Yin Zhan's eyes sparkled, but his face was filled with helplessness as he patted his shoulder lightly. You must learn to be more careful in future and learn more from your Blood Demon Group's leader. When Blood Demon Group's leader heard himself mentioned, he didn't know what was going on, but he had to pretend that he knew everything clearly as he put on a humble look and waved his hand. All right. Luckily, there's the intelligent leader Yin around. Otherwise, based on the bearded man's blockhead, he would definitely be cheated by those two ladies. The World Mercenary Group and Peach Blossom 3000 actually dare to play us like that. I, Yin Zhan, will definitely take revenge for this. Yin Zhan pretended to be infuriated as he clenched his fist and bellowed. The bearded man was fuming. Damn it, I hate being cheated the most. Just as the two of them were about to punish Yiqing Luo with righteous indignation, a lady's sharp voice was heard from not too far away. I have a way to deal with the World Mercenary Group. I wonder if the both of you are willing to cooperate with me. The two mercenary groups' gazes turned towards that direction at the same time. They saw a group of about 60 to 70 mercenary group walking over. Those mercenary groups were dressed strangely and looked like ruffians. At a glance, one could tell that they were the kind of lowly mercenary groups. The leader of that mercenary group was a man and a woman. The woman was wearing a jade green dress and was extremely beautiful and dazzling. The man was wearing a dark robe and had his wounds simply bandaged. He covered his mouth and nose with one hand, as if he was in pain. Yan Zhan quickly cupped his hands and bowed to the two. Fifth Mistress Shangguan, law enforcer. The other mercenaries quickly followed suit and saluted. Shangguan Liuli narrowed her eyes, and her voice was filled with resentment. My mercenary group doesn't have the qualifications to participate in the event, so I can play some tricks and stop them from completing their mission. The law enforcement officer at the side also gritted his teeth and spat out words hatefully. Even if the mercenary guild wants to remove me from my position, they will need a period of time. What's more, the connections I've built over the years have long been set. The other mercenary groups will more or less give me face. What do you need us to do? Yan Zhan and the bearded man looked at each other, their eyes filled with ruthlessness. Shangguan Liuli narrowed her eyes and sneered. Crush her. Let the World Mercenary Group become a joke. What should I do? Random mission. Shangguan Liuli lowered her head as her eyelashes fluttered and her fine long hair covered half of her face. Only the smile on the corners of her lips became increasingly gloomy. I've already asked for men from my family and informed the Yuchi family. No matter what mission the World Group draws, I will make it so that they won't be able to return. The few of them exchanged glances and smiled as their eyes were filled with resentment towards the World Group. No one discovered that person who lowered her head. Chapter 762. Mercenary Association. The usually spacious Mercenary Association was now crowded with people. All sorts of mercenary groups' uniforms were crowded together. And in front of the Mercenary Association's main hall, to receive missions, there was a high stage which could accommodate 100 people. On top of the high stage, there was a huge crystal screen, and on it, there were a few big words, Random Mission Drawing Area. A few people dressed in the Mercenary Association's staff uniform were busy on the high stage. Below was already crowded with groups of mercenary groups, and it was extremely crowded. There were quite a number of mercenary groups who were arranged by their group leaders to wait outside the Mercenary Association for the results. Yiqing Luo looked around and estimated that there were at least 200 over mercenary groups waiting for the random mission. Among them, there was no lack of silver plate mercenary groups. As for the gold plate mercenary groups, she didn't see a single one. And Mo Han Shang saw Yiqing Luo looking around and explained, the gold plate mercenary group is the Mercenary Association's distinguished group, so naturally they enjoy the distinguished rights. Their random missions have already been drawn, and they have all left the Mercenary Association to complete their missions. Yiqing Luo nodded her head in understanding. No matter where, outstanding people were able to enjoy special privileges. For example, Heavenly Academy's class of gods. For example, Mu brothers who could enter and leave the academy anytime and anywhere. For example, Mercenary Association's gold plate mercenary group. For example, now, basking in Mo Han Shang's glory, their seats had long been arranged by Mo Han Shang. Right at the first row below the high stage, the best seat. Of course, Yiqing Luo didn't bring her group of 90 over people to squeeze here. Mo Han Shang had only prepared 6 seats. If there were too many, it would definitely cause others to gossip about it. Hence, the ones sitting at the front row were her, Mo Han Shang, Long Yunzhan, and the others. Plus Xiaobo was overwhelmed by favor to be able to sit at this seat. I'm not suitable. It's better to let Miss Mo Yuing in. He had brought his brothers to join the World Group verbally, although it had been half a month or so. But the actual day of joining and obtaining the World Group's medal was today. This should be the second time Yiqing Luo met him. Why did Yiqing Luo trust him so much? Drawing random missions was an important matter. Even when he was in Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, he didn't have the chance to stand with Jitsong Tian in the Mercenary Association to see Jitsong Tian drawing random missions and discussing whether to accept this mission or not. But Yiqing Luo left her capable assistant Mo Yuing outside. Instead, they brought him an outsider in, and it was the best seat in the first row. This was a treatment he had never enjoyed before. If you're not suitable, then who is? Yiqing Luo only smiled. Regarding the mercenary group's understanding, we are still too inexperienced. You are the senior. We still need your opinion on many matters. After saying that, she shifted her gaze and continued to observe the situation around her. His opinion? He was a mercenary who didn't even have the qualifications to participate in such a grand occasion. Could he really give his opinion? Zhao Bo sat on his seat and was feeling restless as he kept shooting his gaze towards Yiqing Luo. As though sensing his gaze, Yiqing Luo also looked over at him. After meeting his gaze, Yiqing Luo revealed a sweet smile, as though she was consoling him not to be nervous, that she was here for everything. His heart inexplicably calmed down. She was clearly just a child. Clearly, she was younger than him. Why did he have such boldness? At this moment, Zhao Bo finally understood what he lacked in the Blue Dragon group. It was warmth. To Jitsong Tian, these mercenaries were merely chess pieces which he could make use of, or perhaps tools to fight for him to conquer the world. However, for Yiqing Luo, she treated all the mercenaries as real people, a living human being. She would stand on the mercenary standpoint, from a mercenary's point of view, considering the feeling of being a mercenary. Very warm. Chapter 763. At around 9 or 10 o'clock, 3 old men dressed in white robes walked onto the stage. They looked like they were immortals. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Why did these authoritative elders like to wear a white robe with fluttering sleeves and white long hair? Could it be just to look like an immortal? Just to show their inner qualities? Those 3 elderly men had badges which represented the mercenary guild's elders on their chests. All the mercenary groups stood up and bowed towards the 3 elderly men. After the 3 elderly men took their seats, they started to ring the bell one after another. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, everyone felt their ears were buzzing before they stopped. Following that, one of the elderly men stood up and used his profound qi to amplify his voice as it slowly rippled in the air. After the unchanging opening speech, they slowly entered the main topic. Another elder stood up and started to prepare for the random mission to be released. He walked to the front of the stage, and with a flip of his sleeves, a pile of huge wooden tokens hung on his wrist. Those wooden tokens were about the size of 2 fingers and were densely packed together. There were at least 200 over pieces. The elder's vision swept downwards. These are the number tokens for the random mission. Each mercenary group can only take 1 piece of number token. If you take more, your participation rights will be revoked on the spot. So, I'll give you to the count of 10 to discuss, and send someone out to take the number token. His voice paused, and countless of mercenary guild staff around shouted in unison. 1, 2, 3. 200 over mercenary groups speedily pushed out their trusted people or personally went up. Yiqing Luo directly let Zhao Bo go up. The moment the 10th countdown ended, the elder in front of the stage flipped his sleeves forcefully. The 200 over number tokens in his hands were like scattered flowers, scattering towards the mercenary group's positions below. Instantly, numerous mercenary groups jumped up and stretched out their hands to grab a piece of number token and return to their own group's area. In just a moment, all the wooden tokens were snatched up. Zhao Bo returned to his seat and passed the number token to Long Yinzhan. Yiqing Luo took a glance at the back of the number. The number was hilarious. Number 238. Zhao Bo lowered his head in guilt. I'm sorry. What's there to be sorry about? The mission is random. It doesn't matter if you draw it early or late. The mission is still random. There's no difference. Yiqing Luo disagreed. But there are no buts or buts. With 200 teams, we'll only be able to reach midnight at most. In other words, it would be 1 or 2 in the afternoon. We just need to conserve our energy and rest well. Even if these mercenary groups were the first to be drawn, they would still have to sit here and wait for the random missions to be released before they could move together. This was also to ensure that everyone had the same starting point. So to Yiqing Luo, there was no difference whether the number plate was at the front or the back. In the middle of the mercenary workshop, a beautiful woman gently pulled the hand of the person beside her. She frowned slightly. Just now, I think I saw Zhao Bo. The man who was holding the number plate and cursing suddenly raised his head and furrowed his brows. That traitor Zhao Bo is here too? Great. Very good. After betraying the Blue Dragon mercenary group, he still dares to appear at this kind of place. The woman gave a light humph. I asked you to watch over him, but you didn't believe me. You even allowed Zhao Bo to bring so many members away, causing quite a number of losses. The man's eyes were filled with viciousness. After the mission is drawn, I'll make him pay for all the losses. Chapter 764. Yiqing Luo had been observing the steps of drawing the mission. She roughly understood the main process. The mercenary group sent out a representative as he walked up the stage. In front of the crystal screen, which was flowing with water, he placed his number plate and his mercenary group badge on the screen, and a mission scroll would randomly pop out. The mission contents in the scroll, the mercenary group could choose to announce it or choose to keep it secret. But after the mercenary group drew the mission, the crystal screen would display the mission's grade and difficulty, as well as the mercenary group's honor points. Other mercenary groups could also guess what kind of mission this mercenary group had taken on based on the grade and difficulty. The speed of selecting the mission was rather fast. Among them, Yiqing Luo saw a familiar mercenary group. That was the Silver Plate mercenary group, which Lung Fenghua hired when she was brought to the Magic Beast Forest by Dmo Xian. If she didn't remember wrongly, that group leader was called Xia Hoji. The last time she came into contact, this mercenary group's overall ability was not bad. Under the leader's leadership, the members were orderly and their reaction was not bad. Toward Xia Hoji, she rather admired him. She could consider getting in touch with him. If they could become allies, that would be for the best. Of course, the prerequisite was that Xia Hoji had taken a liking to the world group before she could consider the future matters. Yiqing Luo wasn't narcissistic to the point of thinking that all the mercenary groups wanted to climb up with the world group. Let's not talk about whether there was any relationship with the world group. The development of the world group, till now, had only been established for a month. In terms of ability or experience, they couldn't be compared to those veteran mercenary groups. Approximately 4 hours later, Yiqing Luo was already drowsy when she finally reached the number plate after 200. Coincidentally, the two mercenary groups who had a conflict with Yiqing Luo and the rest were both ranked after 200. Peach first went up to draw a mission and drew a middle-grade experience point mission. It wasn't considered too difficult, and the reward was 20 points of mercenary group honor points. Double reward was 40 points. Peach naturally chose to accept this mission. Not long later, Bearded Man went up and drew a high-grade experience point mission. The reward was 50 points of mercenary group honor points. To the Blood Demon mercenary group, this mission was neither difficult nor easy. After getting the group leader's indication, Bearded Man took the scroll and went down the stage. Then, Yin Zhan stepped onto the stage. He didn't go through the process of drawing missions directly. Instead, he stood in front of the crystal screen and looked at the mercenary groups below. He smiled warmly and said, "Everyone has waited for such a long time, so you must be a little tired. If I may be so bold, I will bring you a little episode to refresh your spirits." Yin Zhan's voice slowly spread in the air along with his chi. The mercenary groups below were already impatient and annoyed from the wait. They only hoped to finish the drawing immediately and listen to the bullshit of the elders of the mercenary union so that they could complete their missions immediately. Now that Yin Zhan had appeared, what kind of interlude would he bring? They didn't have the leisure to do that. Other than a few bored mercenary groups raising their arms in agreement, most of the mercenary groups looked impatient, urging Yin Zhan to finish the task and get off the stage. What is he trying to do? Xiao Jin suddenly tightened his grip on the coin dart and frowned. Yin Zhan was definitely not a magnanimous person. Their instincts told them that Yin Zhan's episode was probably related to them. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she looked at the man who was still smiling warmly on the stage. "I'm afraid. He wants to slap our faces." Chapter 765. Before Yiqing Luo could reply, she heard a scornful sneer coming from the other side of Xiao Jin. "That's right, that mistao of yours has exposed this hypocrite's real face, and this hypocrite wants to slap that mistao of yours on the face." Immediately following that voice laughed disdainfully. "Slut Jean, in order to protect that mistao of yours beautiful face, you'd better stick your face over obediently and let that hypocrite Yin Zhan hit you. Xiao Jin's brows creased tightly as he threw the gold coin dart onto the table with a pa sound. Yin Xiao, you're very strange today. Have I offended you? Is there any meaning in targeting me with every single word? Yin Xiaoyi's beautiful eyes stared straight at Xiao Jin as her gaze was chilly like frost. She opened her mouth and was about to speak, but she heard Xiao Jin continuing, "Even if I've offended you, Miss Tao hasn't offended you, right? Today is the first time we've met Miss Tao, and every single word you've said is targeting Miss Tao, ruining Miss Tao's reputation. Are you sick?" All the words were stuck in her throat. Yin Xiaoyi's expression was steely green as she clenched her fists tightly. After some time, she bore with her anger as her red lips curled into a self-deprecating arc. "I'm indeed sick." Saying that, she shifted her gaze away as she stared at the stage, not saying a single word. Xiao Jin was stunned. If it was usual times, if he scolded Yin Xiao, the consequence would be his head exploding. But Yin Xiao had no reaction and even admitted that she was sick. She couldn't really be angry, right? Xiao Jin's arrogance instantly disappeared as that serious and reasonable expression collapsed. "Xiao Yi, all right. I'm the one who's sick. I'm in the wrong, all right?" His tone softened, but Yin Xiaoyi's gaze was fixed on the stage as she ignored him. "My dear grandaunt, I'm in the wrong. I shouldn't have scolded you. You hit me? Hit me all right?" At this moment, Xiao Jin was completely flustered. He and Yin Xiao had long become a habit of fooling around. No matter how overboard his words were or how out of line he was, Yin Xiao would always use the same attitude to reply him. But Yin Xiao actually ignored him. "Grandaunt, Jinzi." Yiqing Luo coughed lightly as she suppressed her voice. "Everyone is looking at you, your matters. After we leave the Mercenary Association, we can slowly talk about it, all right?" Yin Zhan had originally been on the stage, and he had said an interlude to liven things up, causing countless mercenary groups to react. When Xiao Jin slammed the coin darts on the table, it immediately attracted the attention of the mercenary groups. Immediately, everyone's gaze focused on Xiao Jin. Fortunately, their voices weren't loud, so other than the mercenary groups at the back, no one else could hear their conversation. Otherwise, it would be extremely embarrassing. Xiao Jin's complexion alternated between green, white, and finally completely red. The mercenary corps below the high platform suddenly laughed out loud. This was a real, refreshing interlude. Yin Zhan stood on the high platform, his expression not much better. When he specifically drew a mission, it attracted everyone's attention. Instead, it allowed the World Group to occupy the sites of the other mercenary groups. Why was this the World Group always going against him? The more he thought about it, the more resentment he felt towards the World Group. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists tightly, but maintained a cultured and refined look on his face as he cleared his throat and raised his voice. "I believe everyone has heard of the World Mercenary Group's name. A mercenary group established by a group of 15 to 16-year-old young lads, and on the next day, it was promoted from an ordinary mercenary group to a bronze plate mercenary group." Chapter 766. The World Mercenary Group. The middle and lower class mercenary groups in the mercenary world had basically all heard of it. To be able to establish a mercenary group for the second time and directly upgrade to a bronze plate, in the entire Mercenary Association's history, there was only one heaven-defying existence, the World Mercenary Group. If it was said that before this the World Group was established, it had already nurtured numerous high-level cultivators and had abundant financial support, as well as a strong backing. On the second day of establishment, if they were able to upgrade to a bronze plate, they wouldn't feel surprised. But the World Mercenary Group had 60 over members, and although they were all from the Imperial Palace, but everyone's average age was 15 years old, and the oldest was just 18 years old. No matter how powerful they were, they absolutely couldn't be considered as high-level cultivators, right? Financial support? According to what the Yuchi family said, the World Mercenary Group's headquarters was in a huge mansion in a corner of Three Springs City, which looked extremely old. The only commendable thing about that mansion was that the security measures were done extremely well. Other than the World Group's members, no outsiders were able to enter. But this showed even more that these youngsters weren't willing to let others see their old and dilapidated mansion as a joke. Talking about the strong background backing. This Yiqing Luo was the young matriarch of Three Springs Sect, but Three Springs Sect had been going downhill in recent years. Moreover, Yiqing Luo wasn't favored in Three Springs Sect. Especially with the recent waves of scandals in Three Springs Sect, it had long caused Three Springs Sect's reputation to hit rock bottom. The biggest backing was probably the Overlord. But other than giving Yiqing Luo a wave of young men and young ladies from the Imperial Palace, the Overlord hadn't taken any action to help the World Group. The more they thought, the more lost the mercenary groups felt. These youngsters were so outstanding at such a young age. If they were allowed to develop, wouldn't they be able to crush them in minutes? Since ancient times, heroes are born from the youngsters. I, Yin, have long admired the World Mercenary Group. Taking this opportunity, I, Yin, represent my invincible group to issue a challenge to the World Mercenary Group. Yin Zhan saw that his words had already attracted the attention of those mercenary groups as the smile on his lips grew even wider. His vision shot towards Yiqing Luo, who was seated at the first row. The mercenary groups below instantly went into an uproar. Challenge the World Group? As an old mercenary group, no matter how dissatisfied they were with the World Group, no one dared to find trouble for them in the open, right? What do you want to challenge the World Mercenary Group for? The elder who was standing by the side of the crystal screen received Imo Hanshang's signal and took a step forward, standing in front of Yin Zhan, as he asked in a deep voice. Yin Zhan revealed a confident smile. Let's take advantage of this random mission. The first mercenary group to complete the mission will be the winner. He then looked towards Long Yin Zhan. For the sake of fairness, the World Group has a total of 98 people. Invincible Battles, will also send 98 people to participate in the random mission, challenging in front of so many mercenary groups. Actually, to the World Group, this challenge was something they could only choose to accept. If he didn't accept this challenge, he would probably become a laughingstock in the mercenary world. Accepting and winning, the World Group was once again famous in the mercenary world. As a newly established mercenary group, it was only natural for them to lose to an old mercenary group. At this time, the other mercenary groups did not feel so strongly about Invincible anymore. 98 people against 98 people. It was considered fair. The World Group leader, what do you think? Yin Zhan's smile deepened. Long Yin Zhan's face was icy cold. That handsome face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost which repelled people 1,000 miles away. His azure blue eyes were like lake water as ripples appeared. Chapter 767. In other words, he, Yin Zhan, and the Invincible Mercenary Group were nothing in his eyes. On what basis? Was he, Yin Zhan, qualified? Crazy. How arrogant. It was simply arrogant and flamboyant. However, this kind of arrogance was something that no one could dislike. Looking at Long Yin Zhan's expressionless and extraordinarily handsome face, his expression was still indifferent, as if his words were following his heart. Yin Zhan's face stiffened, and his smile froze on his face. That damned the World Group. His ability to humiliate others was indeed one set after another. Standing on a high platform, he could clearly see the expressions on everyone's faces. Everyone in the mercenary corps looked at him with a mocking gaze. It was as if they were treating him like a clown. Yin Zhan was so angry that his entire body was trembling. However, due to his image in the eyes of outsiders, he was famous for his elegant demeanor and elegance. No matter how furious he was, he had to maintain a gentle expression on his face. He glared at the blood demon mercenary corps from the corner of his eyes. Bearded Man then regained his senses as he swiftly stood up and spoke in a loud and clear voice. Since that's the case, adding my Blood Demon Mercenaries group to participate in the challenge. Does the World Group leader feel that we have the qualifications now? Xiao Jin's brows furrowed tightly. Didn't Miss Tao already expose Yin Zhan's true colors? Why is the Gorfiend group joining in the fun? Yin Xiao Yi snorted. Your Miss Tao's eloquence has failed. Xiao Jin subconsciously wanted to retort, but when he thought of Yin Xiao Yi's cold violence towards him earlier, he immediately shut his mouth. Yes, 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 my great aunt. Humph. Towards Xiao Jin's display of weakness, our proud Yin Xiao, he didn't appreciate it in the slightest. Yi Qing Luo lazily leaned back on the chair. Her long eyelashes fluttered, her pink lips curved, clear and shallow. There's a type of person who mingles in the pugilistic world, relying on his mouth. Her gaze fell on Yin Zhan. Yin Zhan's mouth can even bring the dead back to life. A brainless executive commander like Shun Shun would naturally be easily fooled by Yin Zhan. They looked at each other in dismay. The other mercenary groups were boiling with excitement. If Yin Zhan had said that he wanted to create a small interlude to refresh himself, they would not have been interested. But now, their interest could not be any greater. The Blood Demon Mercenary Group was an old mercenary group with a good reputation in the inner realm. It was a silver mercenary group. He actually participated in this challenge as well. Should it be said that the World Mercenary Group was too eye-catching, attracting the attention of many large mercenary groups? They should be wiping their cold sweat for the World Mercenary Group. They have become the target of the large mercenary groups. The Blood Demon Mercenary Group is a silver mercenary group. The difficulty of their missions is higher than yours. Yin Zhan had instructed Big Beard to memorize these words, so he was able to recite them smoothly. Since I am participating in the challenge, the Blood Demon Mercenary Corps will do the same. We will only send 98 people to participate in the challenge. Even the Silver Plate Mercenary Group had stood out, and if the World Group didn't accept it, then they would really become the laughing stock of the mercenary world. Long Yunzhan's brows furrowed slightly as ripples appeared in his azure eyes, and he seemed slightly impatient. Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao clenched their fists tightly, their faces filled with rage. Zhao Bo also couldn't sit still as he kept shooting his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo and Long Yunzhan's direction, wanted to open his mouth to analyze the current situation. But on seeing Long Yunzhan's gloomy, cold gaze, all his words were stuck in his throat. Chapter 768. Long Yunzhan shook his head faintly as his eyes squinted, staring intently at the stage where Yin Zhan's expression had already reverted back to a complacent look. The arc on the corners of his eyes turned chilly. Why? Student Yi Qing Luo, isn't your the World Mercenary Group very powerful? Aren't you relying on the fact that you have the support of the Overlord and are especially arrogant? A sharp voice was heard from the crowd. Shangguan Liuli, who was dressed in a jade-green long dress, stood at the corner of the Mercenary Association with her arms crossed as she leaned against the wall. Her face was filled with cold ridicule, filled with contempt and disdain towards the World Group. Fifth Miss Shangguan, I heard that this Miss Yi is a student from Devil Class, that waste class in Heavenly Academy. How powerful can the group she leads be? Besides Shangguan Liuli, eldest Xiong's group of brothers chimed in one after another. How could these mediocre mercenary groups possibly know about Heavenly Academy's matters? The answer was self-evident as to who taught them to say these words. Damn it! Earlier in the marketplace, they were so arrogant and despotic, even daring to beat up the law enforcers. Now on seeing Invincible Group and Blood Demon Group's challenge, this bunch of waste are terrified. Hooey! A bunch of useless fellows still dare to say that Leader Yin isn't qualified to challenge you? I'm telling you, you bunch of waste totally have no right to compete with Leader Yin. To put it bluntly, these mercenaries in the lower levels of the market were just hooligans. Under Shangguan Liuli's instigation, all of them started to hurl insults which were extremely unpleasant to hear. All sorts of unbearable vulgarities started to spew out from their mouths. Shangguan Liuli covered her mouth as she giggled. Don't say that. At least they are disciples from the Imperial Palace. The surrounding mercenary groups could hear the hidden meaning in Shangguan Liuli's words. They couldn't help but feel indignant for the Overlord. The Overlord had chosen 10 over-disciples from the Imperial Palace out of goodwill to help Yi Qing Luo establish a mercenary group. Yi Qing Luo was from Heavenly Academy's waste class, Devil Class's student. No matter how strong Yi Qing Luo's ability was, being allocated to Devil class meant that the Academy had deemed Yi Qing Luo as a waste. A waste had led the Overlord's Imperial Palace's disciple to become waste. These mercenary groups didn't know much about the Academy's affairs. Naturally, he didn't understand how Yi Qing Luo broke the Heavenly Academy's record and so on to prove her ability. Yi Qing Luo naturally understood the deep meaning behind Shangguan Liuli's words. The corners of her mouth curled into a cold arc. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Shangguan Liuli with a faint smile. It had only been a few days since they last met, but Shangguan Liuli seemed to have become much smarter. He actually knew how to use the Emperor Palace's disciples to suppress her. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh out. He didn't know if Shangguan Liuli's mind suddenly became sober after the torture, or was there someone guiding him from the shadows. However, right now, Yi Qing Luo had to admit that Shangguan Liuli's move was extremely ingenious. Of course, even if Shangguan Liuli didn't use DMO Xian or the Imperial Palace to ridicule her, she would still accept this challenge. Regardless of what Shangguan Liuli was plotting to unite invincible and blood-fiend mercenary groups, it didn't matter. To the World Mercenary Group, this was a pretty good challenge. Since Blood-Fiend Mercenary Group and Invincible Mercenary Group have already appeared, I, a small group like the World, have no choice but to comply. An icy cold voice was heard, clear and deep. Chapter 769. The coldness on Long Yunjan's face had already faded away as his brows were filled with unhappiness. Now, are you satisfied? Shangguan Liuli was pierced by his gaze as her entire body turned stiff as she stood dazed on the spot. The hooting, bearded man and that complacent Yunjan were also stunned. What was he trying to pull off? Why did the World Group's group leader display such a helpless look? This wasn't their misconception. Those melons spectating mercenary groups saw Long Yunjan, who had been maintaining his cold and aloof state, revealing such an expression and hearing the anger hidden in his words. Those melon spectating mercenary groups who were standing on the Blood Demon Group's side earlier now stood on Long Yunjan's side. Yi Qing Luo was about to slap the table and burst out laughing as she couldn't help but gave Long Yunjan a thumbs up. Didn't Yunjan want to join forces with Bearded Man to use the fearsome gossip to force the World Group into their trap? Now, Long Yunjan was giving them a taste of their own medicine. Long Yunjan's intention was, I agreed to it because you forced me. You old groups can't bear to see the newly established group being the center of attention and jealous of our new group. Your old groups can't tolerate a new group with potential. Many mercenary groups at the scene had this kind of mentality. But on the surface, they still displayed the attitude of a senior, encouraging the new group, admiring the new group with potential, etc. Right now, Invincible and Blood Demon Group were obviously overbearing, wanting to destroy the World Mercenary Group with potential. I won't waste everyone's time. Blood Demon Group, and the World Group's mission will be left at the end to draw. Saying that, Yunjan escaped down the stage. The elder received Mo Hanshang's hint and didn't say anything as he continued to read the numbers at the back. Perhaps these mercenary groups wanted to see what kind of mission these 3 mercenary groups who had participated in the challenge would draw. The speed of drawing random missions was extremely fast, but within the time it took to burn an incense stick, the entire random mission activity was only left with these 3 mercenary groups. Yi Qing Luo's vision shot towards Zhao Bo's direction. Zhao Bo understood her meaning as he immediately stood up and walked up the stage. Zhao Bo, just as the entire crowd was silent, waiting to see what mission the World Mercenary Group would draw, a furious howl was suddenly heard from the back. A man dressed in green old clothing stood up as he pointed at the World Group's representative. I've not expected you to really go to the World Mercenary Group. You traitor. Lanling Nua, who was by her side, also stood up, and her gaze was like a torch as she looked directly at Yi Qing Luo, her gaze searching one round around her. As if he did not see the person he was looking for, a trace of imperceptible disappointment appeared on his face. This gaze was naturally noticed by Yi Qing Luo. She turned her head around lazily and squinted her eyes as she casted a fleeting glance at Ji Tsang Tian and immediately retracted her gaze. Standing on the high platform, Zhao Bo's face darkened. He clenched his fists tightly, as if he was trying his best to restrain his anger. He looked at Yi Qing Luo and hung his head guiltily. Vice Group Leader, don't bother about unimportant people. Let's go and draw our mission. Yi Qing Luo said calmly. Her voice was clear and melodious. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. Don't bother about unimportant people. Go and draw our mission. Ji Tsang Tian flew into a rage as the veins on his face popped out. Yi Qing Luo, I've long seen that you have ill intentions for getting close to our Blue Dragon mercenary group. So this is what you're planning. If you poached the mercenary group which I had painstakingly nurtured. Poaching? Chapter 770. At this very moment, these mercenary groups were no longer as impatient as before. Over the years, they had been muddling around in various missions, and their mental state had always been highly tensed. Today they were waiting for a random mission in the Mercenary Association to let themselves relax and rest. When they met with such a matter, the Mercenary Association's elder didn't say anything, so they just treated it as a show. Poaching this matter to mercenary groups was a huge taboo. Mercenary groups, as the name implied, relied on mercenaries. With mercenaries, there would be mercenary groups. The minute they joined a mercenary group, the most important thing for a mercenary was to ensure their loyalty towards the mercenary group. Because mercenary groups usually fought in groups. Everyone would become brothers who would go through life and death together. After experiencing life and death, their relationship would become even more unwavering. Hence, if any mercenary group was exposed that a certain mercenary had betrayed the mercenary group and joined another mercenary group, they would definitely be reviled by the entire mercenary world. This was a kind of betrayal. When Ji Tsang Tian went out of the world group to poach someone, he even openly brought him to this random mission drawing location. It could be seen that this mercenary who was poached over definitely held an important position in the world group. But no matter what position condition the world group gave him, he should not betray Blue Dragon mercenary group. Instantly, all the mercenaries frowned as their faces were filled with ridicule and disgust toward Zhao Bo. Their gazes towards Long Yunzhan and the others were filled with disdain. They looked down on people who poached other mercenary groups, mercenaries from the bottom of their hearts. Yin Zhan and Big Beardy, who were standing by the side, waiting to draw a random mission, exchanged glances as they saw the joy in each other's eyes. Even Heavens was helping them. They had not expected the world group to poach a mercenary from Blue Dragon mercenary group. Poaching was a huge taboo in a mercenary group. They could almost imagine the scene of the world group being condemned by everyone. Perhaps they didn't even need to make a move. The world group would be completely destroyed. Zhao Bo stood by the side of the crystal screen, and as a cultivator, how could he not hear the discussions of those mercenaries below the stage, and how could he not feel those mercenaries' gazes? These, when he decided to leave Blue Dragon Group, he had already thought of such a situation. He didn't care, but these people were not only ridiculing him. There was also the world group. To him, the world group was his second home, and also the last home that he had decided to settle on. If because of him, this family would be implicated, his conscience would never be at peace for the rest of his life. Zhao Bo looked at the crystal screen in front of him and suddenly became timid. He couldn't draw this random mission. He could not implicate the world group. Clenching his fists tightly, Zhao Bo was about to turn around and leave the stage to explain everything to Yi Qing Luo. However, an extremely lazy female voice entered his ears. Zhao Bo, hurry up. Commander Yin and Executive Commander Shun are still waiting for you. Zhao Bo's expression turned ugly. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something. But when he met Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes, his body suddenly stiffened. Following that, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, revealing an extremely gentle smile. That smile, like the warm sunlight, poured into his heart. Inexplicably, his body seemed to be filled with power. Zhao Bo's tightly clenched fists loosened one by one. The expression on his face had also regained his confidence and calmness. Raising his hand, he printed his member's badge and number tag on it. A scroll suddenly popped out and landed steadily in Zhao Bo's hands. Chapter 771. Low Grade, Experience Mission, 5 points of Mercenary Group Credit Points. Yin Zhan and Bearded Man were dumbstruck. It was actually a low-grade experience mission, 5 points of credit points. Even if it was double the reward, it was only 10 points. What kind of luck did the World Group have? They had drawn the lowest and easiest mission. Earlier they had gone through a challenge competition with the World Group, unless they had also drawn a low-grade experience mission. Otherwise, they would not be able to win at all. Even if Shangguan Liuli sent someone to create trouble, this kind of simple mission could be settled in minutes. The two mercenary groups were in a complete mess. The other mercenary groups were sighing endlessly. The World Group's luck was just a little too good. Zhao Bo took the scroll and was about to leave when he heard Yi Qing Luo sing, "Zhao Bo, give up this mission." What? Zhao Bo was stunned. Give up this low-grade experience mission? Hadn't group leader already accepted this challenge? If they were to give up, wouldn't they be giving up the chance to win, for sure? And to spend 100 points of mercenary group credit points. Not only was Zhao Bo unable to believe it, the others were also unable to believe that Yi Qing Luo would actually give up a sure-win mission. Didn't they want to win the challenge against the two mercenary groups? Or because their poaching had been discovered and they were worried that they would be bombarded by the other mercenary groups, so they intentionally gave up the chance to win for sure to divert their attention? Yin Zhan was in even more disbelief. A sure-win chance? Why would the World Group give up on it? What on earth were they planning? In case someone finds an excuse to say that we relied on luck to win. Yi Qing Luo brushed her fine black hair as she slowly stood up. That devastatingly beautiful face was filled with a sneer of ridicule. Our the World Group not only have absolute luck, we also have absolute ability. Her sonorous and forceful voice, word by word, was like an oath as it struck everyone's heart. Zhao Bo's blood was boiling as his eyes were filled with determination and faith. A decision was formlessly formed in his heart. All right, he passed the scroll to the elder. The World Group, give up this random mission and request to use the second chance. Random mission activities indeed had the rule of giving up and second chance. The elder nodded. Just as Zhao Bo was about to draw for the second time, Yi Qing Luo propped her chin with her fingertips as she raised her brows and smiled. We've already drawn once. Let's let Captain Yin and Executive Captain Shun draw first. Zhao Bo retreated to the side to make room. There was no need to doubt the randomness of the Mercenary Union's random mission screen. Yin Zhan wasn't afraid that Yi Qing Luo would play some tricks on the mission. He walked directly to the side of the screen. Before he drew, he seemed to have thought of something. For the sake of fairness between the three mercenary groups, we will add one more request. Speak. Just as you said, mercenary groups have absolute luck and absolute strength. I agree with this statement. The corners of Yin Zhan's lips curled up. Therefore, our challenge this time is not just a competition to see who completes the mission first. We are also competing to see who gets the most generous rewards during the mission. This was truly a test of a mercenary group's luck and strength. To be honest, Yin Zhan's request was too much. Yin Zhan and Big Beard had obviously joined forces. Big Beardy was the executive leader of the Silver Blood Demon Group. The chances of getting a high-level mission from a Silver Blood Demon Group was much higher than the two Bronze Blood Demon Groups. Naturally, the rewards are the most generous. Moreover speaking, Yin Zhan had 2 chances to draw a random mission. Big Beardy also had 2 chances, whereas for Zhao Bo, he was left with one last chance. Chapter 772. It was obvious that the two mercenary groups had teamed up to bully the World Group. But Melon Eater Mercenary Group's crowd expressed that if it wasn't for the World Group poaching, they would definitely speak up for the World Group. But the matter of the World Group poaching made them develop a sense of disgust towards the World Group. At this moment, naturally, no mercenary group would stand out to speak up for the World Group. On the contrary, They couldn't wait for the world group to lose to the other two mercenary groups. Zhao Bo's brows creased tightly as his voice was filled with anger. Captain Yin, your request is too harsh. Harsh? Yin Zhan shrugged his shoulders innocently. I'm merely targeting the logic in Miss Ye's words and raising out my request. How is it harsh? Pausing for a moment, his smile became even gentler. You feel that my request is harsh, which means you're denying the logic in Miss Ye's words. You. Zhao Bo's face flushed red, but he had no way to rebuke him. Seeing Zhao Bo being deflated till he couldn't say a single word. Jitsong Tian, who was acting as a shit-stirrer, laughed coldly as he shouted at the top of his voice. Zhao Bo, you traitor who betrayed the Blue Dragon Group, still not going to scram off the stage. What rights do you have to stand on the stage? Zhao Bo's muscles tensed up. It wasn't because of Jitsong Tian's insults, nor was it because of Yin Zhan's shamelessness. But because of him, he had embarrassed the world group. He felt that he had let the world group down. A light laugh rang in this atmosphere, as it was exceptionally clear. Everyone's gazes followed the direction of the laughter. Captain Yin is indeed an obedient dog, listening to whatever its master says, so obedient. Yiqing Luo's smile was coquettish as her figure swayed slightly, and she had already leapt onto the stage, standing beside Zhao Bo, her fair little hand directly placed on Zhao Bo's shoulder. Zhao Bo, no matter which mercenary group you were in previously, who you followed, or what happened to you. But now, you only need to remember one thing. You're a member of the world group, my brother. Melon Eater mercenary group exploded. There was no one else who dared to openly poach people from the world group. There was only one group and no one else. Since Captain Yin is so obedient, as the master, if I don't agree to it, wouldn't it seem too unreasonable? Yiqing Luo finished her words and turned her head over as she looked at Yin Zhan with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Yin Zhan's entire face turned green and red from Yiqing Luo's continuous calls of dog, dog. What the F***ck are you talking about? Who are you calling? How could Big Beard tolerate it? Someone insulted his friend in front of him? He immediately flew into a rage as he raised his fist and charged towards Yiqing Luo. Yin Zhan, stop, Big Beardy. Yin Zhan was not a broad-minded person. To be more precise, he was a narrow-minded person. Being teased by Yiqing Luo in this manner, Yin Zhan's hatred and disgust towards Yiqing Luo grew even thicker. But on seeing that Yiqing Luo had agreed to his request, he temporarily suppressed his anger. Now that they had allowed Big Beard to lay his hands on Yiqing Luo in public, even if they had taught Yiqing Luo a lesson, Big Beard would still be punished, and it might possibly affect the reputation of the Invincible Battle Group. Invincibility was equivalent to Yin Zhan's face. How could Yin Zhan bear to let his face be tainted with dirty traces? Anyway, Yiqing Luo couldn't escape. The world group couldn't escape. Go and draw a mission. Yin Zhan finally managed to stop Big Beardy's rampage, as he speedily pushed him to draw a random mission. Big Beardy blew his beard as his eyes widened, as he heavily puffed out a gust of cold air from his nostrils, as he walked directly to the crystal screen, as he rudely printed his badge and number tag on it. A scroll bounced out as it landed in his palm. On the screen, the flowing water outlined the words, as it was faintly discernible. Chapter 773. A High Rare Quest. 80 honor points. Double that meant 160 honor points. This could be considered a high-level reward for a high-level mission. Generally speaking, even if it was a rare advanced quest, the reward would at most be 50 to 60 honor points. It would be difficult to get more than 70 honor points, not to mention the 80 honor points. Of course, the high-grade rare mission, which Yiqing Luo had snatched from Yuchipeng last month, could not be compared to this. At that time, Mo Han also said that this mission, no matter what, should be classified as a complicated grade mission. As the young master, Mo Hanzhang had yet to ascend to the position after all. Towards the internal affairs of the Mercenary Association, it wasn't easy for him to investigate thoroughly, and he only briefly mentioned it to the elders once. In the end, They only found out that the staff member in charge of sorting the mission levels was a newcomer, so there was a mistake. The elder had already punished the staff member. Because there was no major mistake, the matter was left unsettled. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the reward for a real high-grade rare mission would at most be 60 to 70 honor points. The better ones would be 80 to 90 honor points. The Melon Eater mercenary group was stunned. Oh my god, the luck of the Blood Demon group was too heaven-defying. This kind of reward, even if Yiqing Luo's luck was heaven-defying, to draw the Bronze Plate mercenary group's top-grade rare mission, there was absolutely no such high honor value reward. Moreover, just based on these young men and women in the world group, even if they were to defy the heavens and draw a high-grade rare mission, they wouldn't be able to complete it. There's no need to compete. The world group is bound to lose. There's no suspense at all. This is boring. Hurry up and draw a quest. Stop wasting everyone's time. The members of the Melon Eater mercenary group also lost their original expectations and interest in something that they could completely guess the outcome of. Yin Zhan smiled. His laughter was filled with pride. That pair of seemingly gentle eyebrows overflowed with an air of superiority. He was so confident that even his footsteps were like the wind. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his request to compete for the mission rewards was too smart. This time, it was a sure win. Yin Zhan did not feel any burden in his heart. He casually printed his number plate and the regiment commander's medal on it. The smile on his face froze the moment the mission scroll popped out. On the screen, it was printed with the same handwriting as the random mission that Zhao Bo had just drawn. Low-level, training mission, 5 mercenary group honor points. The Melon Eater mercenary group was in an uproar. Yiqing Luo sneered as her lips curled into a cold arc of ridicule. Now, Yin Zhan was probably regretting it so much that his intestines had turned green. Indeed, Yin Zhan had the urge to slap himself to death. He actually drew such a low-level mission? If he hadn't made that smart request just now, he would have been the one to win for sure. He had absolute confidence that he could complete this low-grade learning mission before Yiqing Luo. Just by looking at the 5 honor points, he knew that it was only enough to kill an ordinary tiger or leopard at most. He could casually send someone, and the saber would rise and fall in less than half an incense stick's time. Rather than letting the Blood Demon group win this challenge, Yin Zhan naturally hoped that his team would win. This was an honor. However, Yin Zhan could not accept this mission. The reward was only part of the reason. More importantly, Yiqing Luo had just given up on the same mission, and that was before he had even requested for the reward. If he accepted this mission now, wasn't it like slapping himself on the face and getting slapped by Yiqing Luo? Chapter 774. So, this low-level mission, I choose to give up too. Yin Zhan said it in a dignified manner, putting on a look as though he was cooperating with Yiqing Luo. The other mercenary groups understood the deeper meaning in his words, but they didn't point it out. After Yin Zhan gave up on this mission, he directly used the second chance to draw another mission. Perhaps because he had given up on the low-level mission, the Mercenary Association deducted 100 points of mercenary group's honor points, which helped Yin Zhan accumulate his luck. The second round of drawing, Yin Zhan's luck was off the charts as he drew the exact same high-level mission as the bearded man. Looking at the top of the screen, the flowing water outlined the words high-leveled rare mission. Yin Zhan almost screamed out in joy. His heartache over his 100 points of honor points instantly vanished into thin air. High-leveled, rare mission, 50 points of mercenary group honor points. Although it wasn't as bountiful as the Blood Demon mercenary group's reward, but among the high-leveled rare missions, this reward was considered as medium. Yin Zhan took the scroll and returned to the bearded man's side as his face was filled with unconcealable ecstasy. Over the years, the Bronze Plate mercenary groups who were able to draw the extremely low probability of a high-leveled rare mission was not more than 100 groups. Vice Group Leader Zhao Bo's expression turned extremely ugly. Under this kind of situation, the World Group had no chance of winning at all. Even if they also drew a high-leveled rare mission and completed it before Invincible and Blood Demon Group, but their reward was absolutely not comparable to Blood Demon Group, so they would still lose. If they lost, who knew how these two mercenary groups would arrange the World Group? The World Group would probably become a joke in the mercenary world, completely destroyed. But Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change at all, as though everything was within her control. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an enchanting smile as her eyes were long and narrow, as she shot a glance at the two men whose faces were filled with ecstasy, suppressing her voice as she laughed softly. The higher the reward, the higher the danger of the mission. Did they really think that 80 points of Mercenary Group honor points was so easy to get? Moreover, the time limit for taking part in the random mission was only 3 days. Blood Demon Group was a silver plate mercenary group, and their ability was displayed there. 4 high-leveled rare missions. If they spent some time and energy and threw in some manpower, financial resources, there was a possibility of completing it. But unfortunately, Blood Demon Group took part in the challenge against the World Group and even offered to send 98 Mercenary Group to take part in the mission. 3 days, 98 Mercenary Group. Could he really complete this advanced rare mission with a heaven-defying reward? Looking at Yin Zhan's invincible mercenary group, it had already been 3 to 5 years, but it was still a bronze mercenary group. It could be seen that the overall strength of Yin Zhan's mercenary group was average. Yin Zhan's eloquence was the main reason he was able to make it this far. A high-rank rare quest. Even if he managed to draw it, he would still need to have the ability to complete it. When Zhao Bo heard this, he nodded in realization. Yes. When he was in Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, Zhao Bo had some understanding of similar mercenary groups. It was impossible for Yin Zhan's team to handle high-level rare missions. Even if he drew a rare advanced quest, he wouldn't be able to complete it, let alone get the reward. Especially when Yin Zhan boasted shamelessly that only 98 mercenary groups would challenge them. Sadly, Yin Zhan was still complacent and was completely unaware of it. Miss Yi, it's your turn. Yin Zhan beamed as he looked at Yi Qing Luo. I hope Miss Yi will always be that lucky. Yi Qing Luo didn't say a word as she walked directly to the crystal screen, and according to the procedure, she drew the mission. This was the World Group's last chance to draw a random mission. Chapter 775. Vice Group Leader's badge and number plate were imprinted on the crystal screen. Yi Qing Luo only felt a stream of water flowing past her palm as a cool sensation assaulted her. Instantly, the entire screen shook. Following that, on the screen, those streams of water flowed extremely swiftly. This was the first time the bunch of Melon Eater Mercenary Group crowd had seen this and were extremely astonished. The elder by the side was also stunned as he hurriedly walked up as he stared at the crystal screen without blinking. Even the 2 elders who were seated by the side also stood up one after another as they rushed towards the screen. Yi Qing Luo's hair stood up from the crowd's gazes. She wanted to retract her hand and wait for the mission scroll. But before her hand could move, she heard the elder berating her agitatedly. Don't move. Don't move. Yi Qing Luo's hand froze on the screen. The 3 elders' gazes were like a bunch of monkeys as they stared deeply at the flowing water on the screen as their eyes shone brightly. What on earth was going on? The strange phenomenon on the screen and the elders' expressions made the Melon Eater Mercenary Group crowd below reveal a puzzled expression. Most of it was because of the shock which Yi Qing Luo gave them. After taking part in so many random missions, this was the first time they had seen this. Such a situation appeared on the crystal screen. This was absolutely not the crystal screen's problem, but it was because of that lass. Just as the crowd were looking at each other in dismay, waiting for the elders to see the reason and resolve the doubts in their hearts, the flowing water on the crystal screen suddenly stopped as though it had stopped. A mission scroll popped out from the middle of the screen. Yi Qing Luo caught it. The mission scroll had finally appeared. What kind of mission was it to actually cause that kind of phenomenon earlier? Everyone held their breaths as they stared at the screen, waiting for the mission's grade to appear. But the moment the mission scroll popped out, the water continued to flow and gradually it outlined 3 symbols. 3. The Melon Eater Mercenary Group crowd looked at each other in dismay. What's with the 3 question marks? What does this mean? What mission did the world group draw? Why are there 3 question marks? Could it be that the random mission artifact is spoiled? Elder, what on earth is going on? We're still in a rush to complete the mission. The mercenary group below was in chaos. The 3 elders on the stage were flabbergasted as their gazes moved back and forth between the mission scroll in Yiqing Luo's hands and the crystal screen. After a while, the mercenaries slowly came back to their senses. Cough, cough. All right, everyone, stop arguing. One of the elders raised his hand and gestured for everyone to be quiet. Another elder stroked his white beard as a delighted smile appeared on the corner of his lips. The mission that the world group's vice group leader drew wasn't because this random screen was faulty, but because the mission that the world group's vice group leader drew was a random mission among the random. The so-called random of random means that this mission is a random mission that surpasses the mercenary group's level. It could be a low-level training mission, or it could be a complex or legendary rare mission. In any case, the opening of this scroll is completely random, and anything is possible. The elder's explanation made the mercenaries gasp in astonishment. The most random of random quests? Should they say that the world group's luck was good? Or should they say that the mission that the world group had drawn added a shred of mystery to this challenge, which they had already won for sure? Of course, these mercenary group's crowd had basically given the world group a death sentence. No matter what mission the world group drew from this random scroll, they probably wouldn't be a match for the Blood Demon group. Chapter 776. Yin Zhan and Big Beard obviously thought so too. Hence, when he saw Yiqing Luo passing the scroll to Zhao Bo, there wasn't a single trace of fear or panic on his face. The 4 of them got off the platform and returned to their seats. All the mercenary groups that participated in the random mission activities have received their mission scrolls, right? The elder's dignified gaze swept across the people below, and his voice was steady and loud. Yes, the mercenary group responded in unison, raising the mission scroll in their hands. The elder nodded. The process of this random mission was a small interlude suggested by the invincible mercenary group. This elder will represent the mercenary guild as a witness, and will make the most impartial judgment for the result of the invincible mercenary group and the Blood Demon mercenary group challenging the World Mercenary Group. The mercenaries were confused. They all knew that the Mercenary Association's young master Imo Hansang had joined the world group. Logically speaking, in order to maintain the reputation of the Mercenary Union, the Mercenary Union would never allow this challenge to stand. If the world group lost, the public opinion would then shift from the world group to Imo Hansang and eventually implicate the Mercenary Association. But the truth was, when Yin Zhan issued the challenge, the elder did not stop him at all. Instead, he maintained an approving attitude. In the end, he even acted as a witness for this challenge. Could it be they had so much confidence in Imo Hansang and the world group? On behalf of the Mercenary Union, I would like to apologize for wasting so much of your time. Now I, the elder, officially announce the start of the random mission. As soon as he finished speaking, thunderous applause resounded throughout the hall. At the same time, when the applause stopped, an enraged voice rang. Elder, my Blue Dragon Mercenary Group is applying to the Mercenary Guild to cancel the World Mercenary Group's establishment rights. Jitsong Tian stood up from the crowd as his face was filled with anger. The mercenary groups that were about to leave immediately stopped in their tracks. There was indeed such a rule in the Mercenary Guild's rules. If a mercenary group caught another mercenary group violating the rules of the Mercenary Union and provided evidence, they would have the right to apply to the Mercenary Union to cancel the qualifications of the other mercenary group. However, in the past few decades, there had never been a case of other mercenary groups being disqualified. Everyone's gazes congealed towards Song Tian. The elder on the stage frowned slightly. The world group's vice group leader Yiqing Luo, 1 month ago in the Magic Beast Forest, snatched our group's mission item and even insulted us. In the end, we even lured out an even higher level Earth Mirage Beast, killing 44 of our brothers. When Jitsong Tian spoke, he seemed to be gritting his teeth as every single word came out from the slits of his teeth. Hidden in each word was a huge burden and anger. Hearing Ji Tian's accusation, the other mercenary group's group leaders, or mercenaries' faces instantly turned black as the gazes they shot towards Yiqing Luo and the others turned even colder. Stealing mission items was a taboo in the mercenary world. Hearing this, Zhao Bo clenched his fists tightly, the expression on his face constantly changing. His initial astonishment turned into disbelief, and in the end, he seemed to have been bitterly disappointed. Zhao Bo's eyes widened. The shame and anger that he had been suppressing in his chest made Zhao Bo restless. He was blind back then, which was why he entered the Blue Dragon mercenary group, treating Ji Tian as his benefactor and brother. How could Ji Tian turn black into white? Zhao Bo couldn't take it anymore. He took a step forward and was about to speak. His wrist was grasped by a fair and slender finger. Zhao Bo looked back. Chapter 777. Ji Tian saw Zhao Bo taking a step forward and was just about to use the words which he had prepared to attack Zhao Bo. But he saw Zhao Bo suddenly retreating, not saying a single word. His expression suddenly turned extremely ugly. This was as though he had held in all his energy but the feeling of letting out a fart. In the eyes of the other mercenary groups, this action of standing out and retreating was indirectly tacitly agreeing to Ji Tian's words, because the World Group had no way to rebuke him. Seeing the other mercenary groups looking at the World Group in disdain, Lan Ling Nua used a sobbing tone as she choked, 44 lives. 44 lives, ah. The World Group's mercenaries, at such a young age, already disregarding human lives like grass, in future. She stopped there and didn't continue speaking. But how could the other mercenary groups not hear the meaning in Lan Ling Nua's words? Now, they were already so arrogant, disregarding human lives. If these young men and young ladies were to grow up and the World Group developed, wouldn't they massacre the entire mercenary association? After going through so much hardship, and with the help of our brothers, we finally killed that Mirage Beast. But these people from the World Group took the opportunity, when we were exhausted from the fierce battle with the Mirage Beast, to forcefully take over the Mirage Beast, which we had killed. The last sentence was said by the more furious he got, as his face was filled with anger as it kept leaking outwards. One had to admit that Ji Tian had arranged this story extremely well. Every single word and sentence was able to strike the other mercenary groups' hearts. As mercenary groups, what they hated the most was other mercenary groups taking advantage of when they were the most exhausted to forcefully take over their spoils of war. As compared to Ji Tian, who said that Yiqing Luo was poaching, forcefully taking over the mission item was even more infuriating. As long as they stirred up these mercenary groups' emotions, they would be able to easily pull these mercenary groups into their own camp. That Mirage Beast was exchanged with my group's brother's blood, but it was so easily snatched away by the World Group. I originally wanted to forget about this matter. After all, you were a newly established mercenary group and a bunch of young men and young ladies. Our Celestial Phoenix Academy had always taught us to let people off whenever possible. Since the item had already been snatched away by you, at most we'll just take a detour when we meet you in future. But I really didn't expect that. You actually poached my team's capable general. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. His eyes widened and his veins bulged. Ever since the day Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was established, Zhao Bo and his gang had always been following me. Our 5 years of relationship. 5 years of love. Now, he was poached by the World Group. Ji Tian clenched his fists tightly as he stared straight at the elder. Today, no matter what, I will seek an explanation for the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's brothers and for those 44 brothers who died. The whole place was silent. After a while, the crowd began to clamor. Elder, such a heartless, unjust, and vicious mercenary group must be eliminated as soon as possible. To be so vicious at such a young age. Such a bandit. Today, he actually had the face to lead the traitor he had poached and openly participate in a random mission. How shameless. We will jointly apply to the Mercenary Association to cancel the World Mercenary Group's establishment rights. Countless mercenary groups expressed their dissatisfaction and anger. Jitsong Tian looked at everyone standing on his side as his eyes were filled with a delighted smile. The corners of his lips couldn't help but curled into an arc. Luckily, Lan Ling Nuo discovered it in time as she pinched his arm fiercely. Chapter 778. Everyone was pointing fingers at them, and the entire place was filled with ridicule. If it was an ordinary mercenary group, they would definitely not be able to take on this kind of pressure. However, under the crowd's curses, the World Group's 6 people remained calm as they sat lazily on their own seats. Only Zhao Bo stood beside Yi Qing Luo as his fists clenched tightly. His face was filled with unconcealable rage as he stared deadly at Ji Tsong Tian, with sparks flickering in his eyes. His calm demeanor infuriated the mercenary groups. A few tyrannical group leaders directly raised their fists as they charged over. A bunch of little brats. You're about to die, and you still don't know how to repent. Let me teach you the good lesson. With one person taking the lead, the other mercenary groups also charged up. How dare you create trouble in the Mercenary Association? Mo Han Shang stood up abruptly as his delicate features were filled with dignity as he shouted out sharply. He stood upright as his gaze was like a torch as he coldly swept a few glances at those group leaders. This young patriarch wants to see how you're going to teach us a lesson. Those mercenary group leaders who were filled with righteous indignation stopped in their tracks. They felt injustice for Ji Tsong Tian, but it was impossible for them to ruin their own futures. Young Patriarch Mo. Ji Tsong Tian's brows creased. As the Mercenary Association's young patriarch, you'll bring shame to the Mercenary Association if you're together with this kind of notorious mercenary group. Mo Han Shang scoffed coldly as the disdain and cold ridicule in his eyes grew thicker. Blue Dragon Group leader must have forgotten that you mentioned forcefully taking over the mission item, forcefully taking over the Mirage Beast. This young patriarch is all present. The minute he said that, the entire Mercenary Association instantly fell into silence. The Mercenary Association's young patriarch was all present. The underlying meaning was that Mo Han Shang was also involved in forcefully taking over the mission item, forcefully taking over the spoils of war, or did he have other intentions? Mo Han Shang shot a disdainful glance at Ji Tsong Tian as he placed his hands behind his back and sneered. Since you've finished weaving the story, then, listen to what I have to say next. Let me say it. Zhao Bo, who was standing by the side, had his muscles tensed up. He gritted his teeth fiercely as he made a difficult decision. I've been friends with Ji Tsong Tian for 5 years, and I've established the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group for close to 4 years. Today, it's indeed time to settle this. Originally, Zhao Bo wasn't willing to mention about Ji Tsong Tian's matters. What was in the past was in the past. Just take it as him preserving the last bit of face for Ji Tsong Tian, preserving the beautiful memories of him and Ji Tsong Tian supporting each other. But with Ji Tsong Tian's overbearing manner, if he still didn't stand out and didn't speak up for the World Group, because of him, the World Group would be branded as robbers and poaching by Ji Tsong Tian. Zhao Bo. Ji Tsong Tian abruptly stood up as a fluster flashed past his eyes. After knowing each other for 5 years, Ji Tsong Tian had more or less grasped Zhao Bo's character. Although Zhao Bo had become a mercenary of the World Group, he would not return to the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. But at this critical moment, Zhao Bo, who valued loyalty the most, would not expose him for the sake of their past friendship. Ji Tsong Tian had not expected Zhao Bo to actually stand out, apparently wanting to tell them everything. The elder sharply realized that when Zhao Bo spoke up for the World Group, Ji Tsong Tian was obviously feeling guilty. He immediately understood something. How could the mercenary group that their young master joined be such a heinous mercenary group? They were clearer than anyone else about their young master's foresight. With a chance to whitewash their young master's name openly, the elder waved his sleeves. Speak. If there's any lie, this elder will punish you severely. Chapter 779. Ji Tsong Tian forcefully snatched the World Group's mission item, but was humiliated by the World Group. How could Ji Tian disregard his own brothers for a woman, even sacrificing his brothers' lives to open up a path for him and Lanling Nua? How did Ji Tian hide in the World Group's enchantment after the high-level Mirage Beasts appeared, not willing to help to deal with the high-level Mirage Beasts, and even kept on insulting them, and so on and so forth? He used the simplest words to explain everything. As for the reason why I left Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, at this point, Zhao Bo's voice started to tremble as though he had recalled a painful scene. No one would have thought that 5 years of love would be no match for a woman's pillow talk. Because of Zhao Bo and the others' rudeness in the magical beast forest, Lanling Nua developed a sense of disgust. After Lanling Nua woke up, she persuaded Ji Tian, confirming that they had the intention to betray Blue Dragon Group. Initially, Ji Tian didn't believe it, but after all, they had been brothers for many years, so he naturally understood him. But Lanling Nua used the excuse of, since he saw her body, then he should be responsible for her, to start a Cold War. Ji Tian could only follow Lanling Nua's intentions in order to gain the beauty's favor. Zhao Bo and more than 30 others were locked up. Lanling Nua took the opportunity to announce to the public that these 30 people wanted to betray the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group and had the intention to rebel. Over time, Ji Tian also felt that Zhao Bo wanted to betray him. Zhao Bo and his brothers were naturally furious. They had sacrificed their lives for the Tsang Dragon Group, yet they ended up like this and even had to bear a bad name. How could these people, who valued loyalty so much, tolerate this? Naturally, they would think of ways to escape, to look for Ji Tian for an explanation. He had not expected this kind of action to make Ji Tian believe in Lanling Nua's words even more, as he immediately killed the few brothers. Both sides fell out completely. Zhao Bo escaped from the Tsang Dragon Corps with the remaining 23 of his brothers. With no other choice, he thought of the World Group. You don't even trust the brother who has been with you for 5 years, and you choose to trust a woman who spreads lies to deceive people. In order to make that woman happy, you killed your own brother without any hesitation. You were ruthless and didn't show any mercy. He. Zhao Bo let out a bitter sneer. He did not want to recall this scene. He didn't want to believe that Ji Tian had really chopped off the head of his brother who had gone through thick and thin together, going through thick and thin together for Lanling Nua. He still remembered clearly that Ji Tian stepped on his brother's head, his long sword pointing straight at his face, and the murderous intent in his eyes was so intense. When the truth was revealed, it made all the mercenary groups present stared at Ji Tian in disbelief. He had not expected Ji Tian to be such a deranged person. He was willing to kill his own brother for a woman? Everyone looked at Lanling Nua again. If Yiqing Luo wasn't around, Lanling Nua could indeed be considered as an exceptional beauty. But after Yiqing Luo's comparison, especially after listening to Zhao Bo's description, everyone's impression of Lanling Nua was only left with a femme fatale and bewitching image. Ji Tian fell onto the chair in terror as he opened his mouth to refute. No, I didn't. It's him. It's the World Group who intentionally tried to defame me. However, even he himself had no confidence in his rebuttal. How could he convince others? Lanling Nua had always been a high and mighty princess who was the center of attention. No matter where she went, she would always enjoy envious gazes. Today she followed Ji Tian to the Mercenary Association, just to enjoy the treatment of a mercenary group's madam, to make others envious. She had not expected that the situation had developed into such a situation. Everyone's gaze towards her was filled with disdain and disgust. Chapter 780. Ji Tian's face was ashen as he stood there in a daze. Yes, he was certain that Zhao Bo would not betray him. He was certain that even if he killed Zhao Bo would absolutely not divulge anything which was disadvantageous to him. He was certain that Zhao Bo's departure wasn't because he wanted to betray him. Zhao Bo was just disappointed in him. Because of this, when that person looked for him, Ji Tian agreed to that person's deal straightforwardly. But all his certainty, at this moment, seemed extremely laughable. He had not expected that after Zhao Bo left Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, he went to the World Group. He had not expected that in just half a month's time, Zhao Bo was completely bought over by the World Group, completely betraying him. Ji Tian clenched his fists tightly as his venomous gaze stared fiercely at that enchanting lady who was still smiling in a relaxed manner. All of you are spouting nonsense. Zhao Bo, I've treated you well. We've been friends for 5 years, and you can't even compare to a Yiqing Luo. Ji Tian struggled on his deathbed. He wanted to awaken Zhao Bo's conscience, awaken Zhao Bo's loyalty towards him. But when his pleading gaze met with Zhao Bo's eyes, all he saw was a piece of despair, like a lamp being extinguished. Zhao Bo's eyes had no spirit at all. It was as if all of his life had dried up along with him. This kind of drying up, Ji Tian understood it clearly. That was Zhao Bo mourning the death of their 5 years of friendship. I believe everyone present here knows very clearly what the truth is. Yiqing Luo's cold voice was mixed with a bewitching smile. She half squinted her eyes as her lips curled upwards, making her look even more enchanting. The 3 elders pointed furiously at Ji Tian as their voices were loud and clear. What a great Blue Dragon mercenary group, treating all of us as fools. You even dare to lie to this elder? Guards, bring this Ji Tian, who is spouting nonsense, down to this elder. From today onwards, Blue Dragon mercenary group's rights to establish a mercenary group will be revoked. Ji and Lan family will forever be blacklisted by the Mercenary Association headquarters. The 3 elders' consecutive words caused a huge uproar at the scene. When the 3rd elder mentioned about Ji family and Lan family, Ji Tian's expression instantly turned steely green. He stood up abruptly, his eyes filled with horror. No, impossible. That's not what he said. That's not the result. He said that after today, I will become a silver mercenary group. You can't do this to me. Ji Tian's mutterings made Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly narrow. Her figure swayed slightly, and that petite figure of hers had already closed in on Ji Tian. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were eerie as she frowned and stared at him coldly. Him? Who is it? Yiqing Luo. Are you in cahoots with him to intentionally mess with me? This was the only reason Ji Tian could think of. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, if it wasn't for that person who used to upgrade to a silver plate mercenary group as a lure, how could he have fallen to such a state? You're still playing dumb? You're obviously following that person on purpose, deliberately making me. He didn't finish his words. Suddenly, a powerful, profound energy rushed over from afar. That profound chi was like a sharp blade, directly stabbing towards Ji Tian's back from the direction of his heart. This profound energy, why did it have a kind of déjà vu feeling? However, the profound energy's momentum was extremely fast, not allowing Yiqing Luo to think too much. Yiqing Luo avoided it ingeniously as her body was like a black butterfly spreading its wings, speedily retreating. At the same time, Ji Tian's reaction was swift. At the same time he turned around, he pushed Lanling Nuo to one side. His other hand swiftly pulled the member who was sitting by the side, placing him horizontally in front of him. Chapter 781. Shrill screams resounded throughout the mercenary union. Fresh blood gushed out from that member's chest. That profound energy directly pierced through the group member's chest. Fresh blood splattered all over Ji Tian. Ji Tian casually threw the group member out as he bent over to pull Lanling Nuo into his arms. He immediately released his profound chi, and with a tap of his toes, he had already turned into lightning as he sprinted towards the Mercenary Association's outer area. Before he left, he even turned his head and gave Yiqing Luo a hateful stare. His eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. Chase them. How dare you kill someone in the mercenary guild? The elder immediately called out to the guards as they chased after Ji Tian. For a moment, The entire mercenary guild fell into a strange atmosphere. No one had expected that someone would kill someone in the mercenary guild, and, at this time, there were at least 100 high-level profound practitioners present. Wasn't the murderer afraid of being caught? However, it was also because of the appearance of this murderer that made all the mercenary groups completely believe in the world group's innocence. In order to survive, he did not hesitate to use his own brother to block in front of him. Even when they were escaping, they had to bring Lanling Nua along with them. This kind of person would definitely kill his own brother for the sake of a woman. With such a person as their leader, if it were them, they would also turn around and leave without hesitation. The farce ended just like that. The guards who secretly assassinated Jitsong Tian had searched within 100 miles, but had not discovered any suspicious person. Whereas for Jitsong Tian and Lanling Nua, they seemed to have disappeared, and there was no trace of them at all. The elders dismissed those mercenary groups and started to investigate Jitsong Tian's matter. The elders did not forget to blacklist the Ji and Lan families in the mercenary union headquarters. He even issued a kill order to track down Jitsong Tian's whereabouts. Yiqing Luo and the others walked out of the mercenary association and saw several tens of people standing not too far away, quietly waiting for them. Something happened. Mo Yuing blinked her empty eyes and said faintly, "Just now, there was killing intent. Did you see that?" Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her vision swept across the surroundings. Mo Yuing shook her head. The killing intent is too fast, and a strong power is also very fast. It was almost fleeting. She had no time to grasp the source of that powerful force. Yiqing Luo didn't harbor any hope. A person that even Mo Yuing couldn't sense. His strength was definitely beyond their imagination. Yiqing Luo's gaze trembled slightly. That person, could he be the him that Jitsong Tian mentioned? The one who used the Silver Plate mercenary group as a lure to make a deal with Jitsong Tian? That's right. It must be the him that Jitsong Tian mentioned. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so coincidentally made a move to silence Jitsong Tian. That person's goal, it's her. This was absolutely not Yiqing Luo's narcissism or persecutory delusion. Instead, it was a strong intuition. Because the profound qi which pierced towards Jitsong Tian was extremely familiar. But no matter how Yiqing Luo's retentive memory and shocking memory tried to recall, she was unable to recall when and where she was. He had come into contact with the owner of this profound qi. "Goddess! Goddess!" A woman's charming voice suddenly came from behind. Dressed in a peach-colored short skirt, Peach smiled like a flower as she waved at Yiqing Luo. She led a bunch of ladies who were as pretty as flowers and jade as she came right in front of Yiqing Luo. "Goddess, what mission have you drawn? So mysterious?" Peach stared curiously at the mission scroll in Zhao Bo's hands. Among the random missions, it was the rarest random mission. Chapter 782. Yiqing Luo pinched her brows as she regained her senses. Right now, the most important thing was to find a way to complete the random mission. Yin Zhan and Big Beard should have read the mission description in the scroll by now. They were probably going to have a headache. Invincible Battle Team and Blood Demon Team's mission is really unbearable. Peach patted on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, indicating her to look towards a direction not too far away. The expressions of Yin Zhan, the bearded man, and the leader of the Blood Demon group were extremely unsightly. They seemed to be discussing something with the scroll in their hands. The leader of the Blood Demon group angrily swung the scroll, occasionally throwing it in Yin Zhan's direction. Then, he couldn't hold it in any longer and slammed it on Big Beardy's face. Big Beardy took the mission scroll with both hands and stood respectfully at the side, letting the leader of the Blood Demons reprimand him. Yin Zhan stood at the side obediently. He was as arrogant as he was on the high platform, but now he was as cowardly as he was terrified. Qiao Jin's eyes lit up. "Does Miss Tao know what the mission is?" Peach raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. "Of course. Don't forget what our 3,000 Peach Blossom group is good at." It was a group of informants who were responsible for gathering information. There are a total of 238 mercenary groups taking part in this random mission activity. Basically, other than the World Group's mission, which I don't know about, I roughly know about the other mercenary group's missions. Xiao Jin suddenly retracted the gold coin dart in his palm and gave a thumbs up to Tao Zi. Miss Tao is strong. I'm impressed. Peach giggled. His gaze landed on the ice-cold Yin Xiao Yi behind Xiao Jin. Her watery eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. A trace of craftiness flashed across Peach's eyes. She acted as if she did not notice Yin Xiao Yi's presence. Instead, she moved closer to Xiao Jin and revealed a charming smile. Xiao Jin, since we're all friends, there's no need to call me Miss anymore. Just call me Peach. Xiao Jin wasn't a bashful person. Since the lady had taken the initiative to say so, he naturally had to give the lady face. He immediately put on a smile and shouted, Peach. Peach beamed with delight. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she discovered that Peach's vision wasn't placed on Xiao Jin. Instead, he glanced at Yin Xiao Yi from the corner of his eyes. This girl, what was he going to do? Although Yiqing Luo had sensed that Peach might have seen through Xiao Jin's outer appearance and had taken a fancy to his inner good looks. However, it felt like it was still lacking a little. Peach stood close to Xiao Jin. She controlled the distance between her and Xiao Jin very well. He didn't cross the line on purpose, but he wasn't rude either. It was more like it was on purpose. This thought made Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled, as the gaze she shot at the Peach was filled with probing. By the side of her ear, Xiao Jin's sniggering was heard, interrupting Yiqing Luo's thoughts. He stared at Yin Zhan and Big Beard, who were arguing with each other, and snickered. Peach, what mission did they get? Peach blinked her eyes and smiled slyly. If others want to know an answer from my mouth, they must pay the same price, but since it's you, Xiao Jin, who asked, I'll tell you for free. She crooked her finger and gestured for Xiao Jin to come closer. Xiao Jin didn't think too much about it. He laughed and lowered his head. The smile in Peach's eyes deepened. She slowly leaned over and whispered in his ear. The mission that they drew is Chapter 783. Xiao Jin was stupefied. What did he mean by he was done for? Before he had time to ponder over the deeper meaning of these words, he felt a sharp pain at the back of his head. Pa! The sound of a palm brushing against skin rang out, extremely crisp and loud. Xiao Jin hugged his head, turning his head in a rage. Who? Who is it? Yin Xiao Yi retracted her hand, a pure and innocent smile hanging on her face. Her bright eyes shone with an intelligent luster, but the coldness in her eyes made one shudder. Sorry, my hand slipped. Looking at the sweet smile on Yin Xiao Yi's face, all of Xiao Jin's reprimands and curses were stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Their eyes met for a long time. Just as Xiao Jin was about to open his mouth to speak, Yin Xiao Yi had already curled the corners of her mouth and turned to walk towards the exit of the Mercenary Association. Yin. Xiao Jin frowned and wanted to chase after him. But after taking a few steps, he stopped. His brows were tightly knitted together. He felt lost and extremely puzzled. Peach took in the changes in Xiao Jin's expression. The mischievous smile on her face deepened. The Invincible Guild's rare high-level mission is to collect 2 bamboo tubes of swamp vampire worms from the Spirit Swamp. The Spirit Illusion Swamp was mostly frequented by Silver Plate mercenary groups. Only the elite mercenaries of the Silver Plate mercenary group, or at least the first or second group of mercenaries, would have the confidence to complete this mission. The Spirit Illusion Swamp was most famous for the swamp blood-sucking worms. The swamp blood-sucking worm was a worm that hid in the swamp. This insect was very small. If it was alone, it wouldn't be aggressive. However, swamp blood-sucking worms usually moved in groups of more than 100. Although they were small, they were densely packed. Once a mercenary fell into the swamp, he would be instantly covered by these blood-sucking worms, and then all the blood in his body would be sucked away. It could be said that there was no mercenary that wasn't afraid of the swamp blood-sucking worms. Asking Yin Zhan's mercenary group to catch 2 bamboo tubes of swamp blood-sucking worms, He reckoned that before he could even touch the blood-sucking worms, he would be attacked by them. No wonder Yin Zhan's face was ashen, as if he had nothing to live for. If they were the ones who drew this mission, they would probably have nothing left to live for. The Blood Demon Group's rare high-level mission is to head to the Chaos Crack and kill 10 Chaos Beasts. You must also preserve their internal organs. Peach covered her mouth and laughed so hard that she couldn't stand straight. No wonder the reward is 80 honor points. This was an impossible mission. These 80 points are just for show. Yi Qing Luo agreed with this sentence very much. The primal chaos slit was the crack between the 4 continents. In modern terms, it was another plane in a parallel world. That plane was in a state of chaos. This is an extremely dangerous place. The beasts in the primal chaos realm were much more ferocious than those in the nirvana realm. If ordinary people entered the primal chaos realm, they would be affected by the primal chaos. Not to mention killing a beast of chaos and preserving its internal organs. This task was too difficult for the Blood Demon Mercenary Corps. One was the Spirit Illusion Swamp. One was the Primal Chaos Realm. His luck was simply unparalleled. No matter how high their rewards were, they could only watch helplessly as the rewards passed them by. Of course, there was another way. Although the Blood Demon Group and Ever Victorious Group had agreed beforehand that they would only send out 98 people to challenge the World Group. But during the process of the challenge, the Mercenary Association wouldn't continue to monitor the process of the mission. Yin Zhan could totally let all the members move together. There was a better way, and that was Chapter 784. However, could the Gorfine Group really be so fearless as to help Yin Zhan obtain 50 honor points for free? Yi Qing Luo didn't believe it. Otherwise, the leader of the Blood Demon Group would not be holding this mission scroll and angrily scolding Yin Zhan and Big Beard. Every man for himself, and heaven and earth destroy him. Not to mention an ambitious regiment commander. If this was any other time, it would be fine if he couldn't complete this mission. But now their Blood Demon Group had also participated in the competition with the World Group. If they lost to a Bronze Mercenary Group, a newly established mercenary group made up of a bunch of kids, what face would they have left in the mercenary world? Now, the World Group's chance of victory has increased to 50%. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she smiled lightly. Her half-squinted eyes curved into an enchanting arc, blossoming with a captivating charm. Tong Ziqing looked at Zhao Bo. What's our mission? Everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian. Compared to the random missions of other mercenary groups, they were more concerned about the content of their random mission. Zhao Bo took a look at Long Yun Zhan and Yi Qing Luo, and seeing that the both of them had no intention to stop him, he then untied the golden silk ribbon on the scroll. Just as she was about to open the scroll, Yi Qing Luo smiled at Peach. Peach, I have something to talk to you in private. Everyone was taken aback. Zhao Bo's hand paused in the middle of opening the scroll. Peach was engrossed in the scroll in Zhao Bo's hands when she suddenly heard Yi Qing Luo's words, and her eyes flashed slightly. Then, her lips curled into a mischievous smile. Okay. There was no complaint or dissatisfaction on Peach's face. She still had a faint smile on her face, and when her watery eyes gazed at Yi Qing Luo, it was still clear without any impurities. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she stretched out her hand. Peach placed her hand in Yi Qing Luo's palm, and the two of them walked forward together. The two of them walked in the opposite direction of the mercenary union. After walking for about half an incense stick's time, there was no one else around. Yi Qing Luo's cold voice suddenly rang. Are you blaming me? I don't blame you, Peach answered simply. If I were you, I would have done the same. This amiable and adorable lass. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but chuckle as she stretched out her hand and caressed her head. Thank you for understanding my feelings. He didn't want Peach to know the contents of the random mission because he was suspicious of Peach. On the contrary, she really liked this smart and obedient girl. The reason why he didn't let Peach know was because of Peach's identity, the leader of 3,000 Peach Blossoms. As the leader of a regiment, there were too many things he had to do. Yi Qing Luo could not risk her own team. But I do have something to discuss with you. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks. A sly smile appeared in Peach's bright eyes. You want to tell me that Miss Yin likes Xiao Jin, right? Not expecting Peach to be so straightforward, Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned and immediately smiled. Not only does Xiao Yi like Jinzi, I think, you can also tell that Jinzi towards Xiao Yi is also... I know. Peach was still smiling, and the dimples on her cheeks were very attractive. That kind of smile, sweet and calm, but made people feel a trace of sadness. A fleeting sadness. While Yiqing Luo was thinking about this feeling, Peach continued with a smile. In the mercenary union, when I saw Xiao Jin being so obedient and gentle towards Miss Yin, I could tell. Yes, Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao, you were attracted to each other and liked each other deeply. Then you. Chapter 785. I admit, I like Xiao Jin. Peach calmly curled her lips as she faced Yiqing Luo, opened her arms, and slowly retreated, as though she was hugging the sun. But this kind of liking is only limited to my feelings toward a man. To put more accurately, this feeling is admiration. She gave an extremely satisfied smile as her tone was relaxed. My liking towards him doesn't have that kind of impulse which makes me want to get him to make him my man. These words made the expression on Yiqing Luo's face change slightly. After a long time, the luster in her eyes revealed some gentleness. I don't know what good fortune Xiao Jin had accumulated in his past life to actually have the honor to make you feel moved by him. Peach wasn't pretentious as she gave a sweet smile. Yes, to be able to make me feel moved. It is indeed his good fortune in his past life. This kind of intelligent and unpretentious girl, Yiqing Luo had always liked it. Moreover, Peach's lips curled up craftily as she blinked her eyes and smiled. Those two slow and arrogant people, if I don't add fuel to the fire, when will they be able to recognize their own hearts? This was indeed a serious question. If it was based on the progress of those two people, probably her and DMO Child was already a bystander, and the two of them had yet to talk about being happily together. Cough, cough, cough. Why did she think of giving birth to a child with DMO Xian? Yiqing Luo rubbed her face, trying her best to ease the redness on her face. But unexpectedly, just as she was about to put down her arms, Peach had already hooked on her arm. I originally didn't intend to bring the Peach Blossom 3000 to take part in the random mission, but I heard that the World Group would be coming, so I came. Today to be able to pluck up the courage to talk to you. Even if the first heartfelt relationship had ended before it even started, I still feel that. It's worth it. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to speak, the little girl released her arm. Her delicate little face was filled with adoration and love towards Yiqing Luo. Goddess, I still need to lead the group to complete the mission, so I won't disturb you any further. See you at the academy. Saying that, Peach had already turned around. The peach-colored dress was like a blooming peach blossom, drifting away with the wind. Looking at Peach's departing figure, Yiqing Luo sighed slightly. This girl was too obedient, so obedient that it made one's heart ache. When Yiqing Luo returned to the World Group's location, the few of them were huddled together, frowning deeply. Yin Xiao had also returned and was discussing something with Zhao Bo. The more they talked, the tighter her brows knitted together. On seeing Yiqing Luo's return, the few of them immediately welcomed her. Xiao Jin looked around. Where's the peach? Yiqing Luo almost choked on her saliva as she subconsciously looked towards Yin Xiao Yi. At this moment, she wanted to correct Peach's words. How is Xiao Jin slow? He was obviously blind. There must be something wrong with his brain. If it wasn't because she knew Xiao Jin's character, she wouldn't have been able to help him. She was afraid that now she was going to misunderstand. Was Xiao Jin unable to leave Peach for a while? Indeed, Yin Xiao Yi's originally extremely gloomy face turned even darker. Her slender fingers curled up one by one, as if she was restraining the anger in her heart. Ahem, she still has a quest to complete, so she'll be leaving first. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that the atmosphere was exceptionally heavy and immediately wittily changed the topic. What are you guys discussing? Why do you look so terrible? The topic was successfully changed. Chapter 786. On the mission scroll, a few words were clearly marked. Complex grade, experience, training mission. Complex grade? Complex. Mixed. Level. Yi-Ching Luo's hand shook as she took over the mission scroll and blinked her eyes. She didn't see it wrongly. It was really the words complex grade. Even if it was a complex grade experience training mission, it was equivalent to a high-grade rare mission. Complex grade missions were usually accepted by gold medal mercenary groups. Even a silver plate elite mercenary group might not necessarily accept a complex level mission. Yi-Ching Luo's lips twitched a few times. Wasn't their group's development a little too fast? On the first day of establishment, they had already accepted a high-grade rare mission which surpassed the high-grade rare mission, and almost lost their lives. Now, another complex grade mission had arrived. The mission content is to head towards Ling Ling King's tomb and bring the King Corpse Guard's coffin back to the Mercenary Association. Zhao Bo explained the mission in a concise and comprehensive manner. Ling Ling King's tomb. Yi-Ching Luo had heard of this place before. Ling Ling King was the war god from 1,000 years ago. He was sent to Nirvana Realm by the upper three realms to protect Nirvana Realm and maintain peace in Nirvana Realm. In the end, in order to protect Nirvana Realm, he died in that incomparable battle 1,000 years ago. Nirvana Realm's 4 great sects paid their respects to Ling Ling King and built a tomb for him, which was located in the West Continent, and Chaotic Realm, which was adjacent to each other. Because of Ling Ling King's esteemed status, the 4 great sects patriarchs worked together to borrow a large portion of Death God Castle's arrays and mechanisms to protect Ling Ling King's tomb. It could be said that Ling Ling King's tomb was a place which numerous grave robbers wanted to infiltrate. But now that 1,000 years had passed, there was no news of any grave robber successfully infiltrating or coming out after infiltrating. Because of this, Ling Ling King's tomb became more and more legendary. Some even said that Ling Ling King wasn't dead at all. He was in Ling Ling King's tomb, silently guarding Nirvana Realm. Some also said that it was the war god's soul, stopping all intruders who wanted to blaspheme his name. In the mission, the King Corpse Guard in front of Ling Ling King's tomb was also the target which everyone talked about. This Corpse King was once a corpse puppet created by the 4 sect masters from tens of thousands of corpses that had died violent deaths. Then, he combined the powers of the 4 great sect masters to set up a formation for the corpse puppets. If someone tried to invade the main tomb, this corpse puppet would disregard everything and take the intruder's life. Then, it would merge the intruder's corpse chi and become a part of the corpse puppet. Therefore, this corpse puppet was known as the Guardian Corpse King. Their mission was to carry this corpse puppet's coffin out of the tomb of the Ling King and send it to the mercenary guild. This was undoubtedly courting death. It was no wonder that the youths were filled with melancholy. There was no way he could complete this mission. This mission was actually accepted by us. And Mohan Shang gave a bitter smile as his lips twitched. This mission had already been listed into the Mercenary Association's mission program over a month ago, but for an entire month, not a single mercenary group was willing to accept this mission. Of course, no mercenary group would accept it. Even a gold-ranked mercenary group would not take such a risk. And Mohan Shang continued to smile bitterly. Our group's luck, there's no one else like it. This was the last chance for the random mission. If they didn't complete it, it would be considered as giving up and another 100 honor points would be deducted. Giving up on that low-level training mission had already consumed 100 honor points. The world group's current honor points were only left with 90-plus points, and there was no way for them to give up on this mission. Chapter 787. Leader, Vice Leader, what should we do? Zhao Bo asked with an ugly expression. This was the first time he was doing a mission with a group ever since he joined the world group. He didn't expect to receive such a mission. As a veteran mercenary, Zhao Bo had a good understanding of the situation and danger levels of the various places in the Nirvana Realm. The tomb of the Ling King was definitely a place they could not step into. Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled slightly as she exchanged glances with Long Yun Zhan, reading the same thoughts from his eyes. Let's give it a try. How would we know if we don't try? Yiqing Luo rolled up the scroll and stuffed it back into Zhao Bo's arms. If you try, there might not be any hope. But if you don't try, there's definitely no hope at all. If it doesn't work, we'll retreat. Regardless of the danger, since this mission had landed in the World Group's hands, she should have led the World Group to give it her all and not shake her head and advise everyone to give up before they had even done anything. This was not her style. This was also not the style of the World Group. The young mercenaries replied in unison, yes. Yiqing Luo's existence was their hope, their miracle. Even if it was a mountain of knives or a sea of fire, as long as Yiqing Luo nodded her head, they would march forward bravely without any fear. Because they knew, no matter how dangerous it was ahead, Yiqing Luo would travel together with them. Furthermore, he would do everything in his power to ensure their safety. Zhao Bo and the others were slightly taken aback, as though he had not expected that Yiqing Luo would choose to head towards King Ling's tomb. As though she had not expected that these youngsters, after hearing about the dangers of King Ling's tomb, would still unwaveringly agree with Yiqing Luo's words. Then, the 20 or so old mercenaries grinned and laughed. Wasn't this the feeling they were pursuing? Yiqing Luo was indeed a lady filled with hope. Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't head over rashly due to the dangers of Ling King's tomb. What's more, she still had to go back at night to give Zi Ling acupuncture treatment. Because of this, she had everyone return to the old mansion first, then had Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao go to the 3,000 peach blossoms and spend some money to obtain all the information about the Ling King's tomb. After all, this was a place where one's life was at stake. Why not be careful? The group of people returned to the old house in a mighty manner. When he walked in to ask around, he saw a holy pirate holding a shiny gold bottle and carefully wiping it. He looked very sincere. "Grandpa Pirate, what are you doing?" Kitty Lee blinked her bright eyes. She looked at Holy Pirate with confusion. As he spoke, his small body quickly leaped over. Xiao Xiao's hand was already on Holy Pirate's shoulder. Bang! There was a loud noise as Holy Pirate's hand shook. The golden bottle in his hand fell to the ground and made a loud sound. "My golden bottle!" Holy Pirate knelt on the ground. His hands trembled as he tried to pick up the golden bottle, but his hands were shaking so much that he could not pick up the golden bottle. Holy Pirate's wrinkled face was full of sorrow. It was as if the thing he treasured the most had fallen to the ground and shattered. Kitty Lee was frightened by Stolen Saint's appearance. It was not that she was curious, but Holy Pirate's sincere attitude toward the golden bottle made her nervous. The mercenaries around them were also shocked. Only Zhao Bo and the others acted as if they were used to it. They picked up their teapots and went to the back hall to brew tea. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she walked directly to the front of Holy Pirate. She bent down and picked up the golden bottle. Holy Pirate's vision was glued onto the golden bottle as he followed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Chapter 788. "It's made of gold. It won't break. What are you crying for?" Yiqing Luo casually placed the golden bottle on the table. Holy Pirate put on a long face. "Because it is a gold bottle, it should be kept safe. How can you be contaminated by the dust of the mortal world?" This was the first time Yiqing Luo met someone who regarded gold as his life. He finally understood why Holy Pirate would walk the path of Holy Pirate. He was a person who was obsessed with gold. The fastest way to collect all the gold in the world was to steal. "Didn't you go to the Mercenary Union to accept the mission? Why did you come back?" God Thief hugged the golden bottle, which Yiqing Luo had casually placed back into his arms, as though he was hugging a baby who was not even a month old, as he asked in disdain. If they had not suddenly returned, his golden vase would not have fallen to the ground. This hall, although it was called a hall, was more like a meeting hall. After God Thief had modified it, it was extremely spacious. It could accommodate at least 200 people. Yiqing Luo invited the other young mercenaries to sit down. She casually sat down next to Holy Pirate and supported her head with one arm. She lazily said, "I encountered a difficult mission. I have to investigate the general situation of the mission before I can act." She pointed at the teenagers around her. "Here, I'll leave these people in your care today. We'll depart tomorrow. Troublesome. God Thief raised his brows as he squinted at Yi Ching Luo with interest as he put down the golden bottle in his hand. You also have times when you're in a sticky situation? Yi Ching Luo rolled her eyes. I'm also human. She was only a low-level profound practitioner, and her current strength wasn't strong to the point where she could summon clouds and rain with a flip of her hand. So why hadn't there been times when she was in trouble? Could it be that in Holy Pirate's eyes, she had become a god? As though he had seen through Yi Ching Luo's thoughts, God Thief sat down next to her. If you're not a Grand Luo immortal, then how are you going to save me from Death God Castle's underground prison? Death God Castle? Zhao Bo was stunned. You're really God Pirate? At first, when he heard Holy Pirate shout, he thought he was worshipping Holy Pirate. However, when he heard about Death God Castle, he thought about Holy Pirate skills. Zhao Bo seemed to have understood something. In his memory, the name of Saint Thief had fallen in Death God Castle for a total of 10 years. He then linked it to the news that the World Group had received a rare mission, and after completing it, they became a bronze plate mercenary group. Then, this mission was definitely related to Death God Castle. And in the process of doing the task, he also brought out Holy Pirate. Suddenly, Zhao Bo was filled with confidence for the quest in the tomb of the Ling King. Holy Pirate frowned. He pointed at his nouveau riche outfit and said, Of course, I am the real Holy Pirate. How could I be fake? The mercenaries present had all heard of the legend of Holy Pirate. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that the nouveau riche old man in front of him was completely different from how the legends described him. Faced with everyone's doubtful gazes, Holy Pirate snorted arrogantly. Tell me, what is the mission this time? Everyone was taken aback. Yi Ching Luo's curly long eyelashes fluttered as she reacted. Are you going to help us? Holy Pirate had white hair on his temples. He raised his eyebrows and said, Since you saved me, I naturally have to repay you. I, Holy Pirate, have to repay kindness. Yi Ching Luo wasn't bashful at all. Right now, DMO Xian had returned to the Imperial Palace to settle some matters. Something which required DMO Xian to return personally to settle would definitely be tricky. At this juncture, Yi Ching Luo couldn't trouble DMO Xian. The information and contents of the Ling King's tomb could only rely on the information provided by the 3,000 peach blossoms. If she had Holy Pirate's help, not only would the mission completion rate increase. Chapter 789. Our mission this time is to go to the tomb of the Ling King. When he said the last 4 words, the Holy Thief's pupils suddenly dilated, and his expression revealed slight astonishment. Yi Ching Luo naturally noticed the changes in God Thief's expression. Her heart sank and her brows furrowed. God Thief seemed to be familiar with the tomb of the Ling King. Moreover, something that he feared must have happened in the tomb of the Ling King. Young lady, your luck. After some time, God Thief seemed to have noticed his own absent-mindedness as his gaze fixed on Yi Ching Luo once again, as a sliver of helplessness surfaced on his face. He propped himself up and shook his head. Last month it was Death God Castle. This month, it's the tomb of King Ling. Then next month, wouldn't it be the Upper Realm? Yi Ching Luo coughed lightly. It was hard to say whether his luck was good or heaven-defying. Even the rare random mission scroll was taken away by her. It had been more than a month since anyone had accepted the complex quest, and now was randomly assigned to her random quest scroll. It could only be said that the heavens had decided for her to take on this mission. The tomb of the Tomb King is not a simple tomb, Holy Pirate said with a sigh. I'm sure you have heard about it. It is the Tomb King of the God of War from 1,000 years ago. He did not expect it to be the tomb of the Ling King. It was no wonder that this last would find it troublesome. Even if he were to personally take action 10 years ago, he might not be able to escape unscathed. Yi Ching Luo brought along such a large bunch of immature children to head towards the Ling King's tomb, and that would be even more dangerous. The mausoleum of the mausoleum of the mausoleum is backed by a mountain, and the flood dragon is holding down the formation. The inside of the mausoleum is filled with formations and traps, and there are also the Corpse King and other corpse puppets guarding it. To you, this is an impossible task. God Thief paused, and his expression became grave. Little girl, are you sure you want to bring so many people to the tomb of King Ling? We still have a try. Yi Qing Luo nodded. How could he know if it was something he had never done before? She would do everything in her power to lead the team away from danger. If an accident happened, she would not regret it. If he didn't even have a bit of adventurous spirit, how could he be qualified to be a mercenary? Mercenaries live their lives with their heads tied to their waistbands. Mercenaries lived in danger every day. When their lives were on the line, they would gain enlightenment and advance. God Thief looked at the sparkle in Yi Qing Luo's eyes as his wrinkled face revealed an affectionate smile. He chuckled and shook his head slowly. He seemed helpless, but he also seemed to have made up his mind. I, the holy pirate, am a man of my word. When will you depart? I will go with you. Latest by tomorrow. Yi Qing Luo thought for a moment and said time. After giving Zi Ling acupuncture tonight, she should be able to get out of bed tomorrow and do the simplest of rehabilitation operations. Yin Xiao, Yi, and Xiao Jin should be able to bring back the information about the Ling King's tomb tonight. It was about time to depart tomorrow. Holy Pirate nodded. He stretched his body and said, It has been years since I last moved my old bones. Tomorrow, I will be able to stretch them out. Don't torment your old bones. Yi Qing Luo stood up. I'll make a trip back to Three Springs Sect first and come back tonight. Three Springs Sect. Yi Qing Luo had just returned to the courtyard when she heard Hong Mei mention that old Madame Ye's memorial tablet had already been sent to the courtyard by old Madame Yi early in the morning. Hong Mei had already prepared a small-scale ancestral hall in the courtyard and had invited the Taoist to perform the ritual, placing Madame Ye's memorial tablet in the courtyard. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her expression remained calm. She didn't say that she was going to thank old Madame, but directly went to the small ancestral hall. After staying in the ancestral hall for 1 hour, Yi Qing Luo then came out. Chapter 790. Seventh Miss, Old Matron Wang is here. Hong Mei went up and lowered her voice. Old Matron Wang, old Madame's attendant. Yi Qing Luo wasn't surprised. Old Madame's spies were everywhere in and out of Three Springs Sect residence. She didn't intentionally hide her return. Old Madame had a favor to ask of her, so naturally, she would keep an eye on her movements. Yi Qing Luo nodded and didn't ask what old Madame Wang had said. Instead, she asked about Zi Ling's condition. Hong Mei was feeling anxious, but on seeing Yi Qing Luo's composure, she could only go along with Yi Qing Luo's words. Zi Ling is an obedient lady and is recovering very well. Did old Madame look for Zi Ling? Hong Mei shook her head. Old Madame has been chanting scriptures in the nunnery today, and third Madame is accompanying old Madame to copy the scriptures. As old Madame was devoted to Buddhism, a nunnery was set up in old Madame's courtyard. Old Madame's favorite place was the nunnery. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly. Old Madame must have taken her mother's memorial tablet and recalled how she had harmed her mother that year. Hence she felt guilty and wanted to go to the nunnery to ease her mood. When she was young, she had done too many evil deeds. When she was old, even if she was devoted to Buddha and was full of Buddhist teachings, it was unable to cover up her bloody hands. Let's go to old Madame. Yi Qing Luo concealed the chill in her eyes as she said calmly. Hong Mei heaved a sigh of relief and immediately reminded. Sovereign has also received the news and rushed back. He's now in eldest young Miss courtyard. Eldest young Miss? Yi Qing Qian? What were Yi Tian Kuang and old Madame doing in Yi Qing Qian's courtyard? Second Prince sent eldest young Miss back. Hong Mei's gaze swept the surroundings and immediately went forward to support Yi Qing Luo respectfully as she whispered in her ear. I heard that when Second Prince sent eldest young Miss back, his expression was extremely terrible, and eldest young Miss's face was filled with tears. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows in interest. Lung Feng Ying actually sent Yi Qing Qian back. Did it mean that he had given up on Yi Qing Qian? He had yet to recoup his losses from Yi Qing Qian. Was Lung Feng Ying really willing to give up? Let's go to eldest sister's courtyard to take a look. To be able to force Yi Tian Kuang back, Yi Qing Qian's matter this time was not small at all. Other than Hong Mei, Yi Qing Luo couldn't find another trustworthy person in the courtyard. Naturally, he left Hong Mei in the courtyard. She went straight to Yi Qing Jian's courtyard. Just as he reached the door, he saw old maid Wang standing there. Apparently, the matter of her coming to Yi Qing Qian's courtyard had already been notified to old grandmadam. "Seventh young miss, you're finally back. Old madam has been nagging about you for the entire day." Old Madam Wang's lips curled into a smile as she walked up and held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her attitude represented her ancestor's attitude. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. From the looks of it, Yi Qing Qian's White Lotus skill had failed this time round. The old ancestor's heart was now on her side. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply to her, so old Madam Wang continued to nag on about how concerned this old madam was towards her. Not too long later, the both of them arrived at Yi Qing Qian's room. Standing outside the door, not too far away, they could hear Yi Qing Qian sobbing as well as Yi Tian Kuang's furious curses. Occasionally, old grandmadam's icy cold voice would be heard. "Qian, the child in your womb. Whose is it? You must tell this old one clearly. It's second prince's. Second prince's." Yi Qing Qian whimpered in agony. "Old grandmadam, don't you dote on me the most? Don't you trust me the most? Why is it that I've told you so many times, you still don't believe me?"